So we're
Safe.
going to get started here.
Yes.
Hello, world, and welcome to our podcast where three pals with different viewpoints and thoughts who really don't know much fly by the seat of their pants discussing news, politics, conspiracy theories, and much, much more. Two are geniuses and one's an idiot, or are two idiots and one's a genius,
Or are they all geniuses? I like to
Or
think.
or are they
or
all
they could
idiots?
they could all be idiots.
That's right.
Could be.
You be the judge. But hey, now we're live in beautiful Central Florida. Welcome to Political No Brainer. Your host, me, Zach. I'm to your right, always right. To your center, mid right, would be Derek. And to your left, who we want to leave out anyway, is Coach Trippi.
They can't leave
Can
me out. The odd man out is staying in.
We won't leave you out, buddy. You're
can
never
you
out.
push his can you push his box further to the left so he's off the screen?
So, welcome to the show, boys. Derek, welcome back. I know you had a 2 week vacation, but it wasn't vacation. You were
Working vacation.
working like a Chinaman in a sweatshop. That's just totally out of line,
We're
Zach.
gonna
Stop
get
it.
It's
canceled.
I'm getting
horrible.
canceled.
Zach,
Horrible.
three
I
three
know.
minutes in.
I was gonna say a little Chinese
Was it
kid
even
at an
3 minutes?
iPhone factory, but anyway,
I
at a Nike sneaker
Hey,
outlet.
I
And
have a
we
question.
have a go ahead.
No, no, go for it. I'll
I
ask
was just going
later.
to introduce our very special guest, number two for the show. We have retired Lieutenant Colonel Jon Lapidow, a former borough boy, my brother from another mother back home. Hey, John, how are you, buddy?
Zach, thanks for having me, pal.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
sorry you're having. So Jonathan's having a little technical spit it out, Zach.
Difficulties.
Difficulties, and so I'm having speaking difficulties. But he has to go by phone. We can see him by video, so he may sound a little muffled. Listen, when you talk, John, just talk right into the phone. That way, it's
Yeah, I'll
like the
talk right into
microphone.
it.
Yeah. But we're going to
Yeah.
dive into some crazy stuff tonight. We have some great topics to talk about. Of course, we're going to make fun of our what did you call him tonight?
Former state, our grown up state.
Yes, that. But Derek, what did you call the you texted me earlier. What did you call the president? Do you remember?
Oh, our traitor in chief.
Traitor in chief. There it
Did I
is.
just
Traitor in
say
chief.
that? I
I
mean, we're
hope he's
like two.
talking about the current one and not the. You're talking about the current, the sitting
Not the
one.
elected. We're talking
There
about the
is
current.
room for there is good reason for doubt, isn't there?
Oh boy.
No, whoa.
I see where Jonathan's coming from because it is like our current president is Trump already. Like we don't.
Right?
Yeah, you're
Like
right.
he's
That's the first that little statement he had today about the drones being under control and how they just all tend to pop up and that.
Yep.
I just swear, like I haven't seen him in. When's the last time we saw him? And do you think his veins just have straight formaldehyde basically at this point, and then it just kind of
well, what's her name
come
just
out?
popped up the other day too. Camel Toe just showed up out of nowhere. I haven't seen her since like what, November 3rd or something.
And she gave her no, she's
Nah,
been
and she did some cackle
she's
speech today, and
yeah.
she
Today
said
cackled.
something. I
He
was
showed
watching.
up.
Oh, Trippy, did I send you that video? That guy talking about like, he's like, what did she say? What does that even mean? Where she said something and then
No,
she
you
cackled.
the Jesus, when you send me videos, you don't send me that one.
I
You send
did.
me
I'm
a lot
sure
of
I did. Check your
I'll
Instagram.
have
I
to
always send you
research.
something.
Yeah, but I don't know if it was that one because I went through them all already.
But
I
many
remember
of
the
you
one from a
know
couple weeks ago when she was drunk. That was
that
interesting because
was
she wasn't
yeah,
like happy drunk. She was like tired drunk.
right.
Yeah, it was
Well,
bad.
Keith Media just did something on. They just caught that guy straight up from Biden's administration saying he was practically dead. His
Yeah,
exact words. Hidden camera. I don't know if you guys picked that one
I
up.
saw it.
Little
Yeah, yeah,
tease.
yeah. They were in the bar and he was saying how he's probably not even going to
Yep.
make it till the end of the month.
Well, he's
Yeah,
gonna make it, I'm
he can't
sure.
do anything.
No,
I'm sure he's gonna make it, but that's one of the reasons he dropped out of the race was
they give him
because
shots of what is that, adrenochlorine or whatever that they get from little kids.
Yeah, they got to give him something because that guy, you got to wind that dude up. That's what you got to do.
So
well, that's all right, because
tonight,
now we're gonna get the full force of another Trump administration. And here's what I'm predicting: not a
Thank
lot.
God.
oh boy,
Thank God.
here we go.
Here we go, 3-on-1.
That's right. You
I
decided to
just
step into the cage, brother. Brother, you decided to step into the
I'm in the
cage.
cage. I just, I
It's
do wish him the best, and I'm done with his whole talking about his personal activities. I'm just talking about policy
Did
here.
you? But you didn't talk about his new haircut. He came out and displayed his new hairstyle.
Is
you
that
know,
important?
maybe we wouldn't be a podcast if we started down this route, but before this whole thing, and I'm talking 10 years ago, I'm talking Obama, we wanted the best for our country. We wanted the best for our country, and sometimes our guy didn't win, and sometimes, we didn't get our people in, but we wanted the best for our country, and I got only one thing to say, Trippy, and I love you, dude, but can it be any worse?
No,
Frickin' A, man. World War III, like you can't make a dollar. Like, dude, dude, you don't want to know in my business the thing I can't afford? It's not material, it's not labor, it's overhead, man. It's like insurance and like frickin' utility. It's so I
Hey,
can't remember a time where it was like this. Like it's so bad. I don't know how to describe it, but I just don't
Last time
think
it
it
was
could
this
get
bad
any
was
worse.
I think it was Jimmy
well,
Carter when we had to wait in line for gas.
wait a minute, wait a minute. Let's
I
not go
still
too
have
far
to. I
off.
live in Hamlin Grove.
Let's not go too
There
far
is no
off
gas
talking.
stations down there. I was
Let's
looking for
talk.
one today.
Exactly.
Let's
Exactly.
talk about insurance for a second. Now, I don't know about business insurance, but I will tell you this: homeowners insurance in Florida has skyrocketed.
Yes, it has.
Now I live in Claremont, Florida, where there's no risk of flooding because we're so high up on the
We're pretty
ground,
high.
whatever.
You're high.
He is high.
And really we have no risk of even hurricane damage, but our lovely governor has spread the wealth so that my increase was so dramatic to offset the increases that should have actually all went to the homes down south, the $1 million mansions down south. But he got into a special session of Congress, spread the rate increases all across the state, and that's what we call socialism. And
Oh boy. Here we go.
that was spearheaded by our popular Republican governor Ron
I
The
DeSantis.
was
greatest
great.
governor
So the
Florida's ever had.
Can I
government
ask
took
about
over.
Oh,
that?
hold on, Jonathan. What say, Jonathan? Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was saying, I don't know how Jeff's trying to equate that to a socialist, but social by definition, socialism and communism is the government or the state taking over, and that sounds to me like still private.
Well,
Right,
no,
because
no,
That would
it's
be
not
we don't
actually in
have
Florida.
state
In
of
Florida, we do have Citizen Insurance, which is bankrupt, which is a part of the overall general across the board increase. And there's been no retraction of that either. And that is still a part of Ron DeSantis' administration. He could retract Citizens altogether and let people go it on their own in any insurance company they so choose. And then I would have a much lower rate. But I have to go through the Florida system to get homeowners insurance. And that is
I
all
went through my insurance agent
right.
and they
You're getting
shotgunned it and got me the best rate.
you're going through a pool, but the best rate went up dramatically after the special session of Congress that spread the increases across the entire state. When
Well,
in fact it's
when you're
only
rich like me, it really doesn't matter. It's just a drop
no,
in the
but I'm
bucket.
just saying because we're talking.
You are rich now, man. You've changed.
You just mentioned insurance. I just thought I would point that out. Not that
100% back.
See,
Oh
I'm
my
cool
God.
because I have solar panels, so mine is already ludicrously, ridiculously high, so I must be winning instead of losing.
Did you not see my solar panels? I have 22.
do you have solar panels, John?
I had them on my house in Hillsborough actually when I was there because back then when in 2011 when I put them on, the government was giving you. I did the old free to where I didn't get the SREC credit, but I got the free electricity. So back then the government was doing it for veterans, so I got them installed on my house. And I was in Row Hill at the time, Zach. You would know where that is, off of
Mhm.
Beekman.
Yeah, yeah.
Row. Yep. And I just put but I let the credits go to whoever, and I just took the free electricity. But
They didn't do
to
that here
answer
in
your question,
Florida.
panels there, yeah, in Jersey, not here in North Carolina though.
I got to be honest with you. I think every house and business in Florida should have solar.
Yeah, but didn't you tell me your electric bill is still high?
Well, because Duke is a freaking mafia.
Mine's not.
When I call up, I ask him questions, and Tony Soprano, hey, listen, let me tell you something over here. All right, you're
Uh,
gonna pay
See,
your
dude,
bill.
for what happened with mine is when I bought my house, I had no choice to get the house. I had to sign that solar lease. I mean, it was like, it was 2022. Do you want to win a bid on a house or do you want to not have
Is your whole
solar?
house
So
green? Like, is
Uh,
everything in your house energy efficient and all that? Like, it's one of those greenhouses that they got the Nest thermostat, they got everything hooked up to solar, everything runs. It's a smart house, I
Probably.
guess they call it.
I don't know. It's not that smart,
My house is dumb.
but what happened? This is what's funny with me. So we keep our house moderate climate, and we have a pool that has a solar heater.
Mm.
And I've heated a pool without a solar heater before. I know what it costs. So we keep that thing at like spa level, like 96 degrees. Why not? Solar. Um, if we didn't have solar, our electricity bill, I would guess would be about 800 a month.
Oof.
Okay. My electricity bill is only 33 a month. But get this, this is the great part. My forced lease that I have to have for the panels for at least 5 years is 370 a month.
So you're paying $400 a month for electricity, basically.
I didn't say I was done.
Okay.
My home insurance without solar would be between 1,300 and 2,000. With solar, it's over 5 grand. So you got to amortize another 350 to 400 a month, which if you put them together, it's almost the exact same whether you had them or not.
So here's the funny thing, you say that, and it's not funny, it's terrible.
Oh, see, it's awesome.
But
It's the same
I guess,
thing.
see,
I
I
don't
thought solar
care.
leasing was illegal in Florida. It used to be
Everything
because of that
changed in 20
problem.
in when we closed on our house, it was May or June of 2022, and that is literally the week when everything changed with net metering and all the insurance dropped out.
Well, that's
We
Biden's fault.
that well, sure, but that was that week we closed where they're like, "Oh, surprise, it's actually 3 times the cost." I was like, just shove something else up here. I'm
Yeah.
just shove another one up. I don't just
Get your
get in
stuff
line.
out.
That was kind of when everything was going down with the high pricing, the gas, and not going down, going up. Um, just when everything was kind of falling apart at the same time. So, um,
Was that Biden or
anyway,
Kamala's fault?
it was Trippy's fault.
Oh,
It was all my fault.
it was your
Yeah,
I'm
fault,
used to
Trippi.
that. I
he's too
agree.
he's too high over there in Claremont.
I agree.
It's because
Now
we're
I'm
So
in.
hey,
inheriting I'm
let's
inheriting his costs. So,
No, but
let's take it.
here's the funny thing. When I got solar back in 2017, I think we got it. We got the hybrid air conditioning and the hybrid hot water heater, which I don't know what that means, to be honest with you. But
hybrid hot water. What?
yeah, the hot
By the way,
water
it's a,
heater
it's a
actually,
it's a water heater.
right. But here's the cool thing. It
It
cools
makes
my
hot water.
garage. It turns the hot air into cool, and it cools my garage. It's the weirdest thing. But
Did you
anyway,
do that?
we got all this because it was supposed to make everything more efficient. And for the first year, our bill was
Hmm.
nothing. Our electric bill was nothing. But then again, I
Hmm.
was also paying on the loan on the solar and the other stuff.
Right.
So it panned out. Fast forward to now, my solar's paid off, everything's paid off, and now my bill's going up. And I'm like, maybe I need to have someone come out and check my solar because maybe it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. I
Well,
called Duke. You know
Do
what
you have
Duke said?
Sunrun? Do you have Sunrun?
Sunrun. No, I
Who's your?
have
It's nothing to do with Duke.
no, but you know
Contact
what
your.
Duke told me? I said, why is my power bill going up? I have solar, which is supposedly feeding you guys to make my bill go down. And they said, oh, you don't have enough panels. I
No,
said,
you need to contact your solar company and ask them if your actual system is function. Since mine's a lease with Sunrun, they'll actually live report it, and if there's an issue, they'll just send someone out and take care of it. And the system comes back up. The power wall shows everything's good again.
oh,
You
you
need
have
to
a power
contact
wall
your.
too, right?
Oh yeah, man. I don't even know when power goes out. It's crazy. You just like kind of have a flicker and it's like, why is the
Well,
rest of the
that's
street dark?
we
That's
were
when it
gonna
switches
This,
over.
yeah, we were
huh?
gonna do that with the
Yeah.
generator, but we did other things. Jonathan, last time when I was in Hillsboro, they had these like solar panels up on the telephone poles. Were they
Yeah,
what were
they're just loading the batteries. I think that don't quote me on it, but I think that what they do is they just charge the batteries up, and the batteries operate whether it be run on the street lights, electricity out there.
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah, and that's a charging backup for the batteries. Same thing when it's your
Yep.
house, really, because you guys probably have that circuit board down like I used to have. I was Trinity Solar in Hillsboro, and the sun would come and it would charge a battery, and then if you don't have sun for about a week, you could actually
Oh, we didn't we
decharge your.
my solar doesn't charge a battery. My solar actually sells power back to the grid.
Hmm.
I
So that's why
understand.
my
I
power
understand.
bill is supposed to go down, but it's been going up. And now I'm
Yeah.
like I was in the 40s and then it went to the 70s and now I'm in the mid hundreds and I'm like, this ain't gonna work for me.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong. I agree.
It's
Thank you.
50 degrees here in West Carolina now, so that's pretty nice. It's it's getting a little cooler here, where you guys are still suffering from that Florida heat.
No, actually it's gonna cool
We're
We're
off this
cooling
week.
this
down.
this entire year has not been sunny nor hot. This entire
It's been a
year.
weird. We
I
had a lot of rain
It
this
has been
summer, didn't we?
and last winter. It's been the entire last. Listen, I'm new to here. This is only my third winter, but I do talk to a lot of people who've been here a long time, and you guys got to agree. The last 12 months, I'm like a ghost. I haven't even been outside. We have a pool. I don't even see the light of day.
Wait,
It's
this
not
summer
it's
might.
not warm and it's not and it's I would say post hurricane weather is fantastic. Like we
That's the
had
best.
Milton, and since
yeah.
Milton, most of the time it's been between 70 and 80 and very low rain. And it usually is that way. But I would say if you go back 12 months, starting from last winter, we had a super cold winter, a super rainy winter, a super weird summer. Like this summer, you know how it is here, usually about 3 or 4, you usually get 45 minutes to an hour of crazy rain. Then it's perfect. And then maybe or maybe not another little time slot at 9 or 10. This year, this summer was like the rain started at 2 and it didn't stop till 9.
Or it rained
It-
for the whole week straight, which was very unheard
yeah,
of.
that's just
I
not, and it
remember.
wasn't like 100 degrees. It was
So when
just
I
like, it was
first
so bouncy.
when I moved here 30 years ago, you're right. Every day you could set your clock to it. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it would downpour
Hmm.
like insanity, and then it would be hot and humid. You couldn't even breathe.
Yep.
And that's the way it was summertime. This summer it was like it rained a lot. I remember
It
wearing
was
my rain jacket got a lot of use this summer.
and the reason why I notice it so much is because it affects like my tent business so much. Like
Sure.
it was a weather-wise, weather-wise, it was a horrible year for what we do. Politics-wise, it was a horrible year for what we do. Cost-wise, it was a
Any
horrible. Luckily, performance-wise, it was insanity for us. We just kicked snot, but the things like the weather, I noticed I'm so sensitive to those things because it's like, trust me, that storm between 2 and 3 for a half hour and then back to 95 means I have a good day at the shop. But this year, when it was like 2 or 3 and it just rained all night, that means half my day was broke every time.
Right. Right. Who
And
wants
it's
to come
like,
get tint? It's dark outside. What do I need tint for?
dude. It was just kind of, so I notice those things very sensitively because it is such a huge factor. And it's like, I'll go back 12 months. It's been effed. And I get 3 of those tonight, by the way, since I've been off 2 weeks, Zach. I get 3
So
true F
we're
bombs.
we're
But
PG
I'm gonna,
13 plus.
Do I get
yeah,
three?
no, you don't get any.
You're not allowed to
You just
curse,
get,
Jeff.
you're high, so you can't, you
You
just
got to
get to
stay
eat
over there
food.
high. Yeah. Stay high in
But
Claremont.
I want to drop
it's,
the F bomb for something.
just don't. It was, it's just been
Your
a
your
weird, it's been
your
a weird
your your
year.
one guest you brought on dropped enough F bombs for you for the year.
Oh, he was great though.
He was I appreciated him, but oh man, I was
I
like,
appreciate
where's
what
the
he
dump
does.
button? Hey, so we brought Jonathan on for a reason because we've been chatting with him. We have a really great topic tonight. As many of you know, I'm from New Jersey and Jonathan's from New Jersey, or as we say, Jersey, the proper way. There's no such thing as New Jersey. That's in England. Um, and we grew up together in the same town. And I don't know if you saw, did you see where that drone crashed?
Yeah, was that? I thought that would ended up being a hoax. It didn't really crash. It was supposed to be the Lowe's lot, but I
In
didn't. I
Hillsborough,
heard it
suppose.
really.
Well, I was trying to get a hold of Dominic and see if he had any LEO boys who were talking
I
about it.
was. I don't think. I think it was a false flag. The old misinformation, if we want to say that over the air. But that's, I think, what that was.
Well, but
Say,
they brought up
what about
they brought
Point
up our hometown, so that's all that matters. Hillsborough made national
Yeah,
news.
Point Pleasant
yeah, because
Beach?
everybody's reporting now of
What
the
about Point
drones.
Pleasant?
Yep.
It does say there was this morning
Yeah.
there was a crash
Oh, there was
investigated
a
that was
in Point
confirmed. Yeah.
Pleasant.
Yeah, on the beach, yeah, into the ocean.
There was probably a drunk guy flying
That,
it.
yeah, that could have been some civilian that was just messing around.
That was
Now,
New
the
Jersey,
funny
man,
thing is,
yeah.
yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to
Point
say,
Pleasant's down the shore.
while we were going, but generally there's a lot of contagion going on now. because now everybody's like, oh, there's one there in other states, this and that. So you get contagious reporting when it becomes national. Everybody sees something.
Well,
now.
supposedly we had one in Jacksonville that they spotted. It was, and then they had one,
Hillsborough, yeah.
off the coast of Florida. I think, well, Jacksonville's the coast, but I think somewhere down on the East Coast, maybe Melbourne, they saw one. No, Rockledge. That's where they saw one. But I mean, look, y'all don't want to fly drones here in Florida or Texas or Louisiana because, yep, there it
That's
is.
part of what I was going to tell you on my theory.
So we brought Jonathan on. Let me introduce it a little bit for Jonathan. We're going to talk about drones tonight because it's a huge hot topic. Nobody knows what's going on. I mean, people know what's going on. I believe I know what's going on. I want Jonathan to bring in his theory, and then I'm going to bring in mine, and then Trippi will have you bring in your theory, and then Derek, you can round it up for us. I know Trippi believes whatever the government tells him, so.
Well, the government hasn't
That's
told
what
us
I do.
anything.
See, that's
I
why
get-
you're gonna run and hide. Oh, the
My
government.
job is to decide who's the geniuses and who's the idiots tonight.
Well, let's talk about run and hide. Wasn't that MJT's first reaction? We're not. If they tell us to stay in the house, we're not staying in. And it was usually the Democrats that were the party of everything's a 5-alarm fire. And now
Who's MJT? Oh,
Marjorie
okay.
Taylor
Oh, yeah,
Greene.
yeah. Okay.
She's
What
like,
did
oh,
she
if they
say?
She
tell us
said
to
every
stay
red-blooded
inside.
American should be shooting them down.
Except here's the thing: isn't she entitled to be a part of any sort of national security briefings?
He's getting the briefings already, and he knows. By the way, he just said something yesterday. Let me start, you guys. Let me just start real quick on that. What I'm thinking, because I'm getting my brain spinning here. You ready?
Go ahead, brother.
I'd like also like a little bit of a lesson on facts and assumptions. All right, everybody, especially Jersey, which is part of the reason you'll see later of why I think they picked Jersey for this. But in any event, everybody comes up with a million different guesses, and when you don't have many facts, the way to go, and I'm bringing in my military training. Anybody listening here that's military, they'll know those dreaded 4 letters, which is MDMP, which is the way you really plan missions, but it's also the way that you also analyze something that you don't know about when you're like for planning missions in your toolbox, you know. So the first thing that I did when I saw the drones and all the reports was just real quick come up with some facts and assumptions, right? We didn't have many facts, right? But you did have a couple. You knew that first fact that was solid, that it was almost exclusively Jersey. It didn't even cross barely in a PA. Maybe later on you got reports, but it was generally Jersey exclusive. So there's one fact, okay? The next big fact is we know it was drones, right? There were some planes that were reported, but we do know they were drones, and we do know that they had a very high loiter time. They were up in the air for way longer than any civilian drone could ever be. So that is another fact, that it was an advanced drone, which with that fact, keep that in your toolbox. So now we got Jersey, one fact, guaranteed. It was being in Jersey almost exclusively. Number 2, we know they're drones, right? We know they're advanced drones flying in Jersey. So there's the 2 facts, you know. But that's about all the facts, you know, right? We know that they got lights, blah, 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 how people describe them and people see them. And and one more. They're only flying at night generally, okay? So there's the third fact, okay? So even if you don't know anything, you got those 3 facts. Now, let's come up with assumptions that a bunch of people are saying. They're like, oh, they're UFOs. Well, attack that one, because number 1, if they're UFOs, our government probably would be a little more panic. And number 2, it wouldn't be exclusively over just New Jersey.
Right.
So you can get the UFO out right there, bam. With the fact that they're drones and they have a high loiter time, you have to make the assumption that they're government or a government contractor, okay? So let's keep that in our pocket, that we have to basically make a high probability assumption saying that it's very advanced drones that are sitting up there for 6 to 8, and I heard some 10 to 12 hours, loiter time, in formation, flying on satellites. So they're flying at night, so it's definitely the government and maybe the CIA, okay, maybe the FBI, but or a contractor for them. Like instead of Tesla, Droneza, a high-level company, right? So we know that, right? So take those facts and take those assumptions and say, why? The other fact we have is, why is it in New Jersey? Okay, and this is the biggie. You guys remember that? I think we went over a little last time I was on with you of and Zach, you know this, and Jeff, we talked about it. What's very unique to Jersey that really doesn't take place in any other states?
Chemical plants.
And besides any structures or high value targets, just the demographics and the topography and the geography in New Jersey, it's the only state in the country that every inch is incorporated by a town, a city, borough, or what's the other? There's a couple more kinds, but
Village.
Jersey has no village. There you go. Jersey is 100% fully incorporated with 9 million people in that small state. So every inch is controlled by local your municipalities. No open county, which, Zach, you were saying, what if it happened in North Carolina? Or what if it happened out in the counties of Florida? I could take a shot at that one of those drones, and no one would ever, people shoot all the time out here in North Carolina. I could take a shot. If that drone with my SCAR was, say, 1,000 yards out of my open county area, I could shoot at it. Not a neighbor would see. No one would know. So I think when the CIA or the government, which we made that high probability assumption that's them due to our little bit of analysis, they said, wait a minute, what state do we not have sheriffs that are going to protect their citizens, be like, hey, shoot at them? There's no sheriffs. They're toothless in Jersey. They're running people to jails, right?
Right.
So Murphy can make one phone call. So Murphy, and let me get back, top secret information is compartmentalized. So if you've got Murphy with a top secret and you've got the CIA working, they'll tell him that something's happening, but they won't tell him what's happening. Okay, you know what I mean? So they could share with him that. So what they probably, if he was good and we had a good administration, they would have come up with a narrative. Maybe Amazon is testing drones. Come up with a narrative first so you don't have to make people speculate. But in any event, just come to the fact and assumption. So what's unique to New Jersey? It's got a condensed area. During COVID, if somebody walked outside without a mask, soccer moms are calling the police on them. It's a state that's highly dense, very small, no county integrity, no sheriffs to usurp the governor. So the governor could get a phone call from whoever's testing him and be like, hey, come up with a cover story, or you take care of it, but we're testing drones. And a contractor had just got online and he said that he sells government drones. And he said that when they fly at night, they're not looking, but they're smelling. So it could be two things right there. It could be one, they need a high density area to fly around, and maybe they're even testing for how many people call in and report it. That might be one of the factors or the variables that they're actually testing, saying, let me fly over a high populated area with high light pollution, and Jersey, loudmouth, they report a lot. Let's see how many reports we get. Maybe that is one of the variables they're testing. But the other thing is, because they're flying at night, they're not using surveillance. They're actually smelling for radiation or radioactive waste. And they're talking about maybe out of the Port of Bayonne or the Port of Elizabeth that they found an empty Connex that was supposed to be radioactive stuff in it. So what I think they're doing is, because they're flying at night, which the drone expert that I heard said, at night they don't surveil, they only smell. They look during the day, they smell at night. So they could be looking for radioactive, hopefully not a dirty bomb. But to break down my whole thing, the two facts, why is it happening in New Jersey? I think they wanted to fly over a high population area, least chance to get shot by far because a neighbor would catch you. It's all incorporated. If they flew over North Carolina, Florida, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas, they're shot down in about 2 seconds.
Right.
And no one would even know. You wouldn't even have a guy be able to report it, because if I shot from my 8 acres in the middle of Franklin County, North Carolina, if it was over Raleigh, no one would ever know. So I think that's one reason they picked New Jersey. Now you could have other coincidences, like the Picatinny Arsenal is in New Jersey. So Picatinny's known for research and development. So you know how Jethro and NCIS says there's no coincidence in investigations? That could tell you something there. They could be tested out of Picatinny. But to sum it all up, I think they did it in New Jersey for a reason, to not get shot down. It's got light pollution. It's got high population. Maybe they're even looking for reporting. A lot of people are nosy in Jersey. Picatinny's there, and it's definitely a government op, because if it was a bad guy, it would be shot down. Even the dumbass this administration, NORAD, our technology, our high-speed soldiers and airmen, that thing would have been gone. And exclusively in Jersey, it can't be a UFO. So, summation, it's government working with a contractor, probably CIA, need to know information. So even a Murphy will not maybe know what they're doing specifically, but he'll know something's going on, because you can't share top secret information.
Right.
You could just say, hey, you'll tell a colonel at Weapons Station Earl, you'll say, hey, we're going to have stuff flying over. We're testing stuff. Don't shoot it down. That's all you need to know. So again, yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Well, Derek, just so you know a little background, John was a pilot in the Army. He flew helicopters. So he probably knows a little bit more about these things flying around. Did you ever fly a drone when you were in the military?
And you know what's crazy is, believe it or not, when I retired, and this shows how quick technology is, I retired at the end of 19. When we dealt with drones, it was purely still more simple, very little. And when I was in Iraq, well, that was 05. I didn't deal with them at all, except for a couple of surveillance ones, but nothing as advanced that it is now. So, but another thing that gave me a little more just testing facts, assumptions, who is it, is I got my master's in Homeland Security and emergency management too. So the way government operates is a little bit familiar with me, along with being a senior officer in the military. But again, I know as much as anybody else. The only thing I like to show there is, how does a normal layman, with the facts that you have, break it down real quickly, just to make a quick synopsis. I could be totally wrong, but at least I up the probability of what it is, if in case you had to guess or do counter operations or anything like that.
Well, and I gotta, I'm hearing the same stuff you're hearing and everybody else is hearing. And one of the stories that stuck to me, that's a little more scary, is that you brought it up. Something came in through the port of Newark or Bayonne or Elizabeth, and it got stolen, and they're looking for it, but they don't want to tell the public because they don't want the public to panic. And then I've heard it could be a dirty bomb going to New York for New Year's Eve, or going to DC for January 20th. And that's
Now,
what they're trying to find it.
Yeah, if you had a squared away administration, and I was telling, everybody keeps calling me on this too, my buddies. I've probably said this story about 500 times, but if we had a squared away administration, they would have come up with a cover story prior. They would have said, hey, Amazon is testing drones for delivery systems for the holidays, and then tell Murphy that, and tell the people in the airspace, but it's top secret, so you tell them what they need to know. That's it. Cover the area. If you see drones, and Murphy, it's your state. You're the chief executive. Go ahead and come up with the story you want in your state. Amazon drones, whatever. But that's your job as governor. But a squared away administration, i.e., the incoming one would have done, is come up with a good story so nobody's panicking or making assumptions like we all are right now.
Well, I have a question for Jonathan. So you listed kind of the main theories, and I don't mean that like you listed, your optimal environment for why New Jersey for the drones. It made sense. But how does that correlate with, if there's a purpose for the drones to be used, how does that correlate with the fact that uh, we can control where they need to be? Like, okay, if they're looking for something, yes, New Jersey's the optimal state to fly them over. Okay, great, but how does that have to do with the fact that whatever they're looking for chose New Jersey? Right? You know what I'm saying?
Uh,
Like, it's
yeah,
hard to explain, but like
no,
why?
I know exactly what you're saying. That was two different theories. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I, I was coming. Remember, I came up with we have very little facts. So one of the facts that they are over Jersey, right? That's one
Yep.
definite fact that we all could agree on. And I was coming with two different theories. One of them is when I heard from that guy that was talking about that he manufactures drones and sells them to the government. He says that they smell at night, which means they look for example, radon, chemicals, nukes. They smell at night, but they surveil or they observe during the day. So I was saying they're in Jersey, obviously, for what you just stated. If they lost it in Bayonne, Elizabeth, that's why they're in Jersey. So if the theory is they're looking for something, then the thing is missing in Jersey. My other separate theory was if they're not looking for something, but they're just testing drone capabilities for, say, a contractor,
Then
it's
it's the place to
surveillance
do it.
capability.
Yeah.
If they're doing their microphone camera, they're doing it over Jersey specifically because if they wanted nobody to know, they'd be flying it over the ocean or Area 51 or the middle of the desert. So they're flying over Jersey for a reason. And it's either they're looking for something, which, Derek, you brought up a good point out on that. Yeah. I'm separating the theories. Yeah, they're looking for something on one point, and if that's not correct, if that's not the right course of action, then I think that they're just using Jersey for a specific reason.
For a testing ground.
They won't get shot down. It's very because of I was telling you about the demographics and the geography of Jersey and how it's fully controlled. Murphy doesn't in North Carolina. My guy would have to call about 70 sheriffs and say, hey, guys, sheriffs, listen, there's going to be shit flying around. Remember, 70 sheriffs, people from Jersey don't understand this. 70 sheriffs could say F you to the governor. Nothing, it's not going on in my place. So Jersey's a perfect state where the governor could just micromanage using the state police down to the local level and and control it perfectly. Whereas even California, you've got counties the size of New Jersey out towards Las Vegas that are huge that Newsom couldn't control even if he wanted to. He has to use his sheriffs. So Jersey just inherently, by the way it's built and it's being so small with so many people, the drone planners, quote unquote, were like, what state is least likely for it to get shot down? There's a high density population. There's a lot of light pollution. So we could test, during a lot of lights, we have 3 airports there. It's just, and we could fly off into the ocean. So the fact that New Jersey is being used creates a couple of assumptions off of there. And that's what I was.
Who was the Jersey congressman who said there was the Iranian mothership out in the ocean and they were letting them loose? Come on, we would have shot that sucker down.
Yeah, that's Jeff Van Drew, and he was a Democrat. That's what he's known for. On the first Trump administration, he changed over to Republican, and then won as a Republican. So he got reelected as a Republican too. But he's always been pretty good. I've liked him, but that was a little wacky.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. When you say for a fact, and this is just incredible information, that the loiter time points to a government contract or a professional operation. So if you did then say, okay, if we had a real administration, they're going to come up with a story to cover their tracks, and they're going to say it's Amazon, or granted, there could be 1,000 different stories. But if the loiter time points to a government operation, a real serious / military surveillance type operation, then the story wouldn't work. The story simply.
I said, remember, Trippi, our military doesn't make anything right now. Everybody, we are in an industrial complex. So I'm talking corporations. You don't think a layman would believe that Amazon or a huge corporation I mean, think about it. Huge corporations are the ones that are selling them to the government. So a layman could believe that Amazon's testing drones or come up with a better one. They're checking weather. I mean, I wasn't sticking specifically to that story.
No,
I was
not at all.
saying
Not at all. I'm just saying
yeah.
what story would work, and I don't know that there's an issue here. There's an issue here that what the hell?
No, there's only one issue, guys. There's only one issue, and I want permission to drop one of those theoretical. There you go. Celebrate, Zach. Celebrate good times. Come on.
No,
on, brother.
because you guys have to, again, this is my issue then. When we're talking about if there is a national security crisis and in 60 days or less than, Donald Trump's going to be the guy that you all revere as the one that can handle a national security. Just keep in mind, Tulsi Gabbard is going to be his national security lead person who has no experience in national security. And this is the kind of thing where people take issue to his decision making. It's no longer personal on my end. It's no longer, I'm not going to talk about his personal behavior ever again. It's the scenario that you could literally interview Tulsi Gabbard on a surprise pop question and say, what are the 18 agencies that'll be reporting to you as of January 6th? And she may not know the answer yet.
Well,
And
you don't know that. You're assuming that.
I would assume it, and I would assume it, and I would put literally a lot of what I find near and dear to my heart on that bet.
That's because you don't like her.
No, not at all. I did
I mean,
like her.
that's like saying you're not a
She
good
is
Christian
not
if you can't memorize like these 18 Bible verses,
No,
but you have
that's
a
not at all
Bible.
like saying.
Who
That's
gives
not.
a crap?
She's not prepared to be the
I think
national
we're
security
talking about the
advisor.
wrong thing, though. I mean,
We're talking about why don't I revere
So
the
who's the national
president?
security advisor right now?
Well, I don't know, but
who
I don't.
cares? Nobody knows because they're
But
probably
the
irrelevant
issue
too.
has
I
been
mean, why
even.
don't we have the guy who runs the Department of Transportation take care of it?
How could it get any worse?
Well,
Well, the guy, yeah,
that'd be
the
Pete
guy
Buttigieg,
who,
so
Hang
let
on.
him run it.
So give me a minute,
he
because actually,
had, he has no experience in anything.
He doesn't even know where cars
you're
drive.
gonna have a
32-year-old.
you're gonna have an appointee for defense secretary that's never even managed a Taco Bell. He's suddenly gonna be managing a department with 3 million employees.
Who's that?
Why?
Let me tell
That's
you what,
Mr. Pete
that-
Hegseth.
No, he's pulled. There's somebody else.
No, he's not. No,
right.
he's not pulled.
Well, we don't know that.
DeSantis was number 2. He's not pulled.
Why would
Hegseth
Ron
is on the
DeSantis?
hill right now, my friend.
How could you be the guy that's going to be the
Hegseth's
president-elect?
Hegseth is going to get. Hegseth will get confirmed. They already
Yes, he
know
will.
now, and
Yes, he
and
will.
looks like that. And it looks like Fetterman's going to even push a button for him. Remember this is advise and consent right here, Jeff. This is not. In the last 10 years, we've started battling, but confirmations are supposed to be advise and consent. They go see the senator. They talk to him. You're not supposed to be pushing the button on these guys. It's the president's responsibility if his cabinet sucks. I mean,
So
look at
do you
our,
agree
look
with
at
the
our friend now.
appointments? Do you agree with the
I
appointments?
actually, let me tell you what, Jeff. Hegseth is not only, take it from me, and a lot of military guys will agree with me on this one. I've even joked around with it a lot. Do you know who would make the best policy decisions ever in the military? A mid-level NCO or a mid-level officer? Because you know why? Pete Hegseth was a major, so he was a rank lower than me. It's a high rank at a battalion or in an area, but it's not a high rank in the whole military, right?
Right.
So it's a nice rank where you see you got your boots on the ground, you hear the troops' voices, but you also are connected to the briefings at the high level, at the brigade and division level. So you get a big, and then add that to him being a news guy, talking to the Pentagon. That's a feature. That is not a bug. Pete Hegseth, being able to be at Pentagon briefings, knowing how to handle the press, knowing all the departments. You saw the guy on boards when he was briefing up the Israeli incursion with his buddy there, Will. This guy's got his finger on the pulse.
This is a really good topic because I don't know what you've experienced medically between VA or standard for-profit health organizations or the Mayo Clinic. Okay. And let me tell you, has anyone been to the Mayo Clinic anywhere, Rochester, Jacksonville, anything like that? Okay. So take it from someone who's been in and out of health systems for different things for different people. What you're saying, Trippy, and again, don't take this by, I'm just trying to paint a picture. You're saying when you go to Mayo Clinic, there isn't an admin layer, okay? In a hospital, you can get to the top, and the highest you can get is, your MD or your NP or your staff specialist, whatever. And then there's a layer of admin, and these are the people, big bucks, big profit, $8,000 CT scans. These,
Political.
right. Go to Mayo Clinic, okay? You can spend 2 days in Mayo Clinic and you can get 24 tests done that would have taken you in a standard healthcare system 6 months. You're going to get a call from the doctor. Hey, I'm eating a sandwich right now, but could you come in my office and talk to me right now about this diagnosis? Because I know your appointment's tomorrow, but I'm not busy. You know what the admin layer is in Mayo Clinic is actually the top doctors, and you know how much better. And so these are the best people in the world. Don't argue with me. This is fact. These are the best people in the world between that and Cleveland. They have no admin layer because that is the top doctors, and the efficiency and functionality is, I don't have a word for it, but it makes the other healthcare system look like child's play. It's you would never go back to a regular hospital in your entire life. So now what you're saying unqualified, and Jonathan's saying a guy who's got boots on the ground, and I'm saying I'll take Mayo Clinic over a for-profit admin layer system any day of the week. The bureaucracy, the bullshit. Sometimes experience is a bad thing because you're so set in your ways. You ever heard about like the hires where you don't want to hire someone who's been in a career 40 years because they might be super skilled at that sales position, but they'll never bend to what your company's constitution is, what your change mechanism is, how your culture is. They'll never fit in there because they're frozen, and that's what it is. That's their final tunnel vision in their entire
You
life.
can't teach an old dog new tricks.
So right. So all I'm saying,
That,
Trippy, is
and that's
when
what
when
often
you're
is
when you're
that.
talking to us hillbilly blumpkin rednecks about experience, the way we're seeing it as, we'd rather have people who have boots on the ground than people who are so bureaucratically, politically tied up with experience that it's not either important to them, not at top of the mind to them, or they're not involved in it, or it's minutia to them, and it's the same stuff we've had for years and years. So you get someone like Pete Hegseth in there, and he does not have a perfect personal life, right?
Yeah, but I didn't mention
You
that.
could argue that he left his other wife for high executive at Fox News, blah, blah, all this crap. But the guy with the boots on the ground is the guy that the people are going to support, just because experience aside, and oh, I don't know the 18 agencies who report to me, he's still going to do his job better.
Well, it's two different people.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
one
talking
thing
about.
that
Go
uh,
ahead.
one thing real quick too, and another thing is when you get guys with quote unquote experience, like Mr. Austin general type that's in there right now, by the way, that's a 4-star guy. The government brought him over from one of the military industrial companies to
It's
be
all
the
in one
tech guy.
silo. He's
Yeah,
experienced
so he
in
goes
one
from one
silo.
government establishment to the other. You think he with woke guy, Pete Hegseth wrote 2 books on his ideas on how to change the military. 2 books. So Senate could right there drill him. They already know it. He's an open book on what he wants to do. He wants to get the DEI out. He wants to get the bureaucracy out, as Derek was talking about. He wants to get the establishmentism out, and he wants to get the patriots back in. The recruiting is down to the lowest levels it's almost ever been. And if she won, you wouldn't even gotten a person in the military. They would have had to take all these immigrants that are illegally here, give them citizenship and put them in the military, and then say, go get the citizens, because I know you don't believe in that. We the people right there.
Navy's
So,
down like 19 or 20% in recruiting. It's pretty abysmal.
oh, big time. That's huge.
And you said a really good point, Jonathan. You take these guys with experience, and quite often you're taking a guy with experience in one silo, and now you're either throwing him in a different silo where it doesn't matter, or you're throwing him over the whole thing. So you're taking
And he owes
you're
and he owes those guys, and he
right.
works for those companies.
This is
So who
simply
gets the contract?
this is simply like Darden appointing a dedicated line cook to CEO.
No.
This is
No,
what it is. He's not
he's
No, no,
prepared.
no, no. I think it'd be more
Jeff, he
like, and
was
I was actually going to use the analogy, a restaurant analogy, just like you. I think it's like Darden looking at an area manager who's been boots on the ground running several stores, going, "Hey, why don't you come over here and show us what we can do to tweak this to make it better?" Because he's the guy got the ear, he's got the finger on the
You
pulse.
know, that was the same approach that George Bush took on with Donald Rumsfeld. And I remember the incompetence. And I remember when we went into Iraq and ran out of spare parts and fuel. And I remember when a military guy on the ground said, I just want to ask you one simple question, Secretary Rumsfeld. Why don't we have the equipment we need to keep us from getting blown up? And he literally
Hey,
responded, we go to war with the military we have, not the war we wish, not the military we wish we had. We had the military. We didn't have the supply routes. And it was his incompetence that decided to roll into Iraq without Turkey's cooperation. We offered them $15 billion to allow us to use their air um their airspace for just supply missions. And they said, no, keep your money.
Well,
So in the
do you
hey,
know
end,
Trip,
why they did that?
hang on, no, I don't know why, but I do know that the result of them doing that was young guys got their faces blown up simply because they didn't have the proper armor to cross over the terrain they were trying to cross over. And it's
hey,
that kind of
Trippy.
incompetence that I can see Hegseth doing 10 times worse because, like you said, he's a boots on the ground, but when it comes to being an administrator, when it comes to be getting the equipment to the places they need to be, you're talking a guy that's going to open his emails and have 90,000. Try to sort through that, and there's another 90,000 10 minutes later. He's not ready for the job.
You don't
And
know
it's
that.
He's
You
actually
don't
really
know
good.
that.
He's
Okay,
actually one of the
Trippy, I
best
got a
people with
couple of things.
email organization.
And he probably wouldn't leave the equipment over in Afghanistan, by the way.
I think he would have kept Bagram Air Base.
okay, and we left a war. We called
Would have been
bullshit on
good.
a bullshit war after 20
Yeah,
years of getting
Bob,
Yeah,
nowhere,
yeah, we gave up an air base though.
hey,
and
yeah,
that we don't
Well,
need
Trippy,
hey, hold on.
apparently.
Let John
That
talk
was
because he'd
stupid,
be the
man.
professional on this one.
Yeah, yeah.
Trippy. It's I could definitely I know you're 100% accurate on what you just stated about Rumsfeld because I was intimately involved with that. By the way, our brigade, my friend Leaf, actually, who's on Facebook friends now, but a guy I deployed with, lives in Missouri. He flew Rumsfeld that day. Our brigade. We were one of the battalions in the brigade. He was headquarters. I was there when we flew him in to that was in Kuwait. He flew in, right? That was Camp Air. It wasn't Arifjan. It was Virginia, Camp Virginia. So I was right there when he said it. That was actually Specialist Wilson that said that to him, an E4 from Tennessee that said, and you are correct. Rumsfeld was a complete dipshit, but Pete Hegseth is nowhere near even a good analogy or comparison to Rumsfeld. Rumsfeld's an elitist, a guy that was always hanging out with top guys. He was a millionaire that was working at a company. He was one of the oldest SecDefs when he was put in. So this guy was around the block. He owed a lot of favors to a lot of big corporate. He was a war hawk. Hegseth is the opposite. Hegseth is a level-headed guy. He's written 2 books. And like I said before, him being in the news, he knows strategic situations. He knows the ins and outs of the Pentagon, when the Pentagon actually, the press conferences, he's been to all that. So that is a feature that also adds, the guy's a Harvard guy, and he was a major in the military, which means he was almost at a battalion command level. He was planning missions for units that still had over $20 million worth of equipment to 50 to 100 million. He was planning missions for as a major, and he was in Guantanamo Bay running operations. And so he's got the best of all worlds when it comes to that. But comparing, I agree with you. Rumsfeld was terrible. He was a war hawk. I was there when he did that mission, and we convoyed up with that hillbilly armor you're talking about. It became mandatory after that press conference that they started giving us the M113 armored up Humvees. But you are correct on that. But I disagree totally on the comparison to Hegseth.
Well, I can't disagree with you disagreeing. I can say this, there's reason for concern. And I could say this too. Hang on. When you there, okay, I don't know what's going to happen with his confirmation. You're certain he's going to confirm. Then I'm pretty certain he's going to get confirmed. Okay, but when you have the issues that Hanks have had with the confirmation, the concern, not about his personal behavior. Let's erase that from the equation. And the president-elect then says, "Oh, you know who my number two guy is? Uh, it's Ron DeSantis. He was a military lawyer. He worked directly with the SEALs. He's run one of the busiest states in the union. He has the experience to have 3 million people under his watch.
You just
And
called
when
him a
that's
socialist.
well, I think he's an idiot, not
He
just a
likes socialism.
socialist.
You just said he's so
He's
he's a overly
qualified to be
qualified idiot.
yes,
Well, what the heck
absolutely.
is he?
He's an idiot for what he did to insurance, and he's perfectly qualified to be the Secretary of Defense. Because what he did
All
with my
right.
home because what he did with my homeowner's insurance, it skyrocketed, and my home is at no risk of major natural catastrophe.
You
But
know,
it
I haven't
protects
seen my insurance skyrocket like you've been saying. Maybe mine was
it's
good under
through the
Trump. I
roof.
think it was,
I think I think I think we're
Yeah,
giving I think we're handing some over to
there's
him.
different rates for
Here.
Trump supporters versus Biden supporters.
Do we
Well,
need to start a
at least in
GoFundMe for
Florida,
Trippy's insurance?
But when
yeah,
you're
because
number
like
two guy, when you're second, when your B plan is someone that's better than your A plan, and you're pulling those out of your ass as the need arises, it starts to question your ability to be a logical president.
God, I
And
That's
it
the
can't wait
has
till
dumbest thing
January.
I've ever heard.
One more month.
You're
it's not the dumbest
speculating,
thing,
Trippy.
huh?
You're
You're
speculating.
speculating, Trippy. Hey, I'll give you. You told me so. I'll go on your podcast.
I hope I'm
If
wrong.
if any of these cabinet members screw up, any one of them, I'll come on the podcast and I'll say, Trippy, you told me so.
No,
How about that?
I hope, believe me when I tell you, I hope I'm completely wrong. I don't want a soldier to get hurt because of Heg says this. And I'm not saying he's incompetent, but I'm going to say I don't want a soldier to get hurt because he's not prepared to take on the job that starts day one with 3 million employees.
I think
I'm
he's
just
prepared.
saying I hope I'm
Well, they
wrong.
may not have that many employees when
Someone's got to do it.
Ramaswamy and Musk get done with them.
I can tell you no amount of experience will prepare you for 3 million employees because there's no
It's
way you're ever
there's
going to manage 3 million employees. That's why you have departments and reports to you. No one could come in and say, "Thank God that's the guy who knows how to manage 3 million employees." Guess what? You don't.
I don't
I
think
hope
So
Elon Musk or
I don't
Jeff
think so.
Bezos could.
I listen, I hope I'm wrong. I'm just telling you it's just a strange decision out of nowhere this guy gets picked, but I hope I'm wrong. And then
You know what,
secondly,
Trippy? I'm going to start a whiteboard for you for every time you're wrong. I'm putting a hash mark, and we've got a
yeah,
couple, I
but
think.
the problem is you won't acknowledge when I'm right because you revere this moron that's
You
coming
may
into the
be right,
presidency.
but we don't know yet. This is unfinished business.
Of
You may be
course.
right.
Okay,
But
We
okay.
don't know
So,
yet.
so hold on. You made a good point there about the moron that's becoming president. Let's go.
At least he breathes.
Well, hold on. How did that switch? Did you just do that, Derek?
Quit raising your hand.
I didn't raise
High
my
five.
hand.
what
You
happened?
raised your hand. It's in your box.
Oh, I pushed the button. Sorry. I was like confused. What just happened?
You wanted attention.
I did. No,
Why
but
don't you do a
listen,
voice change?
Trippy. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Um, Trippy, so let's go back to the drones for a second.
Okay.
What did your moron president say about them today?
He's done. He said there's no nefarious activity. Okay, so here was Donald Trump's
These things
okay.
tend to just pop
So
up
okay,
when they.
let's compare
Can we
statements.
talk about one thing though? Like after this, can we just discuss why our government won't tell us?
That was my point. That was the point I was trying to make.
Because
Why
we're talking about it, and they
someone the other
obviously
day
there's a
asked
reason
Donald
why
Trump.
they're not telling us. It's pretty disgusting.
No. Don't bring Donald Trump in yet. I
No,
want to
I'm
know
going to tell
what
you what he
your
answered.
idiot
He said the
president said.
government knows. He responded.
Yeah,
They
he
know.
did. I'm sure he knows too.
He knows
I agree
too.
with that.
So respond. Why didn't he
What
respond?
did
You know
what did
why?
what
This
did
is
he
what I'm
what
leading.
did him
This
and
is what I'm leading to because a response could compromise the mission.
what did him and Marjorie Taylor Greene
that's-
say?
Huh?
What did him and Marjorie Taylor Greene both say?
Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene said, if they tell us to stay in our houses, I don't really care what she said.
No.
What did Donald
What
Trump
did
say?
both her and Trump say?
I don't know.
Shoot them down.
If they don't know what it is. He gave that discriminator. He said if they don't know what it is, and Trump knows. Actually, Trump may not know specifically what's going on.
No, he's very entitled to know.
Yeah, Trump's definitely briefed up. So believe me, if Trump didn't know what was going on either, he'd be called for it to be shot down. So we all know that it's somebody knows something, CIA. It's compartmentalized information.
And we know from what you just said, it's probably a government operation, because you said the loiter time is just points to a drone that no amateur could own.
No,
basically.
yeah, they're huge. They're like the size of cars.
So my point is, just generalizing my point, if the reason no one's commenting is because it could compromise the mission, whatever Biden said in his slow, drawn out, maybe dementia-ridden mind, however you want to feel about him, he said there was no nefarious activity. It's just the same response as any other politician would be responsible to respond.
They should have come up with a pre-story, a pre-narrative.
Yes.
A good administration would have come up with a pre-narrative. That's what I'm talking about, Trippi. Saying something after, being reactive instead of proactive, does no good. But that's all this administration's ever done.
Yeah, we have a problem in this country. It's called all four of us pay taxes, but none of us are privy to understand why this is happening. We're expected to feel comfortable that there's no threat when we aren't being told.
Right.
There isn't any logic in that, and it's not okay. And I don't feel like paying my taxes, guys. So sorry.
I'm just going to put this out there right now. I'm going to go early and say if they come out with a drone vaccine, I'm not getting it.
Well, here's the thing. There certainly is. It's almost certain there's a threat, whether it's proactive or reactive. There's a threat. There's an issue.
Or is it just a test
to prevent a threat, which would be proactive?
Oh, but why wouldn't we know about it?
Just like the lab was a preventative test. Oops. We can't tell you about what's killing you.
We didn't want to tell you about monkeys.
We can't tell you about what's going to force you to lose your job. We can't tell you about what's going to confine you at home. We can't tell you about what's going to restrict your basic God-given rights in our democratic republic.
We got to give props to Trippi. We got to give props to Trippi on that one, because he'll be the first to agree.
I'm the first to tell you that Democrats screwed the pooch on.
There you go.
But
I don't care politically.
I'm okay with finding fault. I'm okay with finding fault in my party and my party's leaders. But there's this sense of
I didn't make it a party thing.
There's this sense of
it's a party.
He can do no wrong, and there's this sense of when he
no. Excuse me. He could do no worse.
No,
you think we say he can do no wrong, and I'm sorry, I'm being so strong about this. We say fact check. No, false. He could do no worse.
But will he do better, and will it be acknowledged when he does?
Yes, because he breathes and he works all day and he sleeps 4 hours, and our current president works 4 hours.
Well, I want to give our current president.
I'm pretty sure. With the right people around him, he's going to do just a little bit better.
Our current president actually is. Did you remember the weekend at Bernie's? Our current president had Obama's hand in him, and he was running his mouth. That's the whole thing.
Okay, that's great. Except here's the thing. Now, let me make another point real quick.
You're saying there's a rotting corpse in the funeral parlor, and then there's someone who lets a fart, and you're so worried about the guy who farted.
No. This is what I'm saying.
No. Yes.
Clearly, what I'm saying is, he campaigned on inflation, and he just did an interview where he said it's hard to bring prices down. I'll try, but I can't. Now, let me finish.
He didn't say I can't. He says he will try.
He will try, but it's very difficult. Now, let me finish. If even he doesn't bring a price down, but he levels off inflation where it no longer increases, you're going to call that this giant Trump maneuver. When in fact, now we're just lowering the bar to meet the expectations you've set for Trump.
Well,
do you recall what the gas prices were when Obama was in office?
And we've all acknowledged that was.
I think everyone is just more comfortable.
No, we have not acknowledged it was COVID. because COVID didn't happen until the last 9 months of Trump. But the first day he was
It
in office,
didn't.
gas prices went
COVID.
under $2.
We'd have to look at where COVID started. It was not the last 9 months of Trump. He didn't develop a vaccine. He didn't talk about
He
Fauci for
did, and that's
years.
why I told you I had a problem with it. It came out too
No, but
fast.
it wasn't
It's
in
too
nine
much.
months.
It's too
It
much.
wasn't in the last 9 months. COVID was pretty much 2 years of his administration.
No, it wasn't.
2 years.
It was March of 20, and he was out in January of 21. So it was about 8 months. What, 10 months, right? I'm doing math in my head. March. COVID started March of 20.
You're not qualified to do math on this show, Jonathan. Only statisticians are.
Wait. We graduated from
Trippi is
Hillsborough High
identifying
School.
as that tonight. So
We graduated from Hillsborough High School, Derek. We are not qualified to do much of anything educationally wise.
You made it here.
I'm a knuckle dragger.
So, hang on. COVID started. Give me a minute.
Oh boy,
Come
ask
on.
Alexis. She'll help you.
No, COVID was first. It was February. Well, actually January, February when it was first
I'm
kind
not.
of.
I'm not saying.
But it wasn't
He's
2
right.
years.
January
Let's say
2020.
1 year. Let's say 1 year.
All right, so we'll give it a couple extra months. Let's say 1 year.
No. Listen to what I'm saying, though.
What are you saying?
But you have this vivid memory, this endeared memory of low gas prices, and I'm just saying that coming from the guy who graduated Wharton's business school, there's supply and demand. There was no demand. There was fuel.
See, this is where I got to throw the
fuel-
BS flag. Where's my
fuel
BS
ships
flag?
full of fuel that didn't even have anywhere to
I'm throwing
unload
a flag,
because
too.
there was no demand for fuel.
That
The
was
prices came
not
way
during
down.
COVID. When he
That
got
is
into office, it was 3 years before COVID was even thought of. COVID was brought out because they didn't want him to win a second term and they wanted to be the big heroes by shutting down the country and putting Sleepy Joe, who was Obama's puppet, back in office. When Obama was in office and he did cash for clunkers and then the gas prices went through the roof, it was $4 a gallon. I remember because I was driving an expedition. I had to get rid of it.
That was Obama.
Right. And when he got in office, it was under $2.
Yep.
So we went from Obama to him getting in office. And how did when Biden...
He opened up the pipeline, which your
Trippi.
boy shut down the first day.
So let me tell you a little history about Biden. Biden became president, fuel prices skyrocketed. There was
when he stole the election. Yeah, go ahead. Just admit it.
He didn't steal the election, but there was stickers on gas
Where did
pumps.
those 20 million votes go? Is that a whole different show?
They're saying
That's a whole. No.
They're slowly closing the gap.
One. Don't start that one yet.
So
by next January, it'll be exactly 81.
I've always said, in theory and in practice, there's two candidates. I'm going to answer that question. There's a Democrat and a Republican. Both will get to 220 electoral votes. It's the 7 swing states that make the difference, that get you to 270. The popular vote is irrelevant. That is the system by law in America. Where 20 million votes went, where the popular vote went, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing I said when people were saying Kamala really won. And I said, no, she didn't. Trump won all 7 swing states. He is the president-elect. It's the same thing with Biden. Trump lost. There's no issue there.
Trippi. Let me... Just to get back, we'll do a whole different show on the election.
Yeah.
But to get back to what you said about reducing inflation, this administration, the current one, is currently holding back our economy. And what happens is when they came in and shut the pipeline down and did not only the National Rescue Plan, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the infrastructure bill, they printed money, right? So what happens is Trump, a 2-year-old, could bring down inflation immediately when he comes in by releasing oil. That's the signature. A 2-year-old to do that. And turning the pipelines back on, which that might take a second. And the third thing is a little bit of cut spending. So basically just him coming in and reversing a couple will create a better supply chain.
Well,
and
that was
bringing prices down. You have more demand.
That was a point. That was a point I was just going to make. So I was at this point in the conversation where I said when Biden became president, fuel prices hiked. In America, being the most auto-intensive country in the world, when fuel prices hike, it's like a presidential report card. There was stickers on the pumps. Biden did that. Okay, so here we go. Now here's what happened. The minute that happened, Biden sent his energy secretary to Houston and said, let's issue permits.
Who was his energy secretary?
Let's issue. I'm not running for office, and I'm not running a major.
Granholm. It's
No,
Jennifer
who was it? Who was
Granholm.
his energy secretary?
Jennifer
I don't know.
Oh,
Granholm.
that was that
Okay.
horrible woman from my state.
Okay, but
Jennifer Granholm.
the Biden
Oh, she was an
administration
awful witch.
issued more drilling permits than any other administration in history.
I have to look that up.
But they
and
were
check on that.
overregulated, so they couldn't.
Check on that,
Yeah.
Derek. Derek, proof check that.
No, time out. Trippy's right.
No, the
You'd
pipeline.
stop.
I've acknowledged.
No,
Hang on,
just
let me
stick to
acknowledge something.
facts. The
Was political.
pipeline's not even irrelevant yet. It's going to be, okay?
No,
It's
he shut
going
it
to
down
be.
though. That's what people say made.
I
prices.
know that, but it wasn't built yet, okay? So at first it's a jobs thing, right? You had all these little miner camps being set up in the Dakotas and everything, and these skilled trade guys were literally they were almost migrant skilled trade, but they were in 200K, right? So eventually this is a better opportunity, a better life for their family welders and pipe fitters, whatever. I'm sorry, I don't know all of the trades involved,
No,
but
that's right. Pipe fitters,
that's a future benefit. That's wonderful. You are correct. Biden did issue more drill permits than anyone, with also the most EPA regulations to restrict that as well, which are going. So if you look at Trump's plan, that is to take all that off. So you will increase the supply. You will have more stuff going offshore to be sold. You will have that supply outweighing the demand here. You will have it go down. You will have the sale of that improving our actual product flow to bring the inflation down in the government. And then Doge was kind of the, hey, by the nation's 250th, we're going to cut about a third of the government. That's the plan, okay? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but that is the plan. I believe in that plan. I believe it's a better plan than what we had previously. And I also believe that the oil production imported in certain states, take California, for example, where over half of it comes from countries where their environmental rules and their human rights rules are absolutely what would you call it? Savage. Just
Abysmal?
absolutely. Yes. It's just like when we talk about, the Paris Accords and the greenhouse this and that and the G7 summits, and we're throwing all this money into it. But when you look at the actual output of gases worldwide, it's China and India. And these are the countries that just say, yeah, 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 we'll improve you. And then they go back home and they say,
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do
That's
with
for
any
the
of this. It's
dumbass.
all a political crap, okay? But you have to take off the restrictions. You have to finish the pipeline. You have to sell oil abroad. You have to continue the tariffs you have. But by the way, the people who talk about the tariffs are just absolutely ignoramuses, okay? I am a certified broker importer for tariffs, so I know the harmonized tariff schedule. And it's 70 some pages, okay? It's not a blanket statement. When you put a tariff on something, it's based on the commodity or the category. It's not a blanket thing. It's total. I don't even know why people talk on this. They don't know what they're talking about. It has nothing to do with just saying tariffs will be 20% higher. No, you're going to have steel at this rate. You're going to have avocados at this, whatever they may be. And the fact is, if it's a competing product domestically, we want to have that tariff there to generate income and to produce that in-house to improve our economy and our output and lessen our dependency on other countries, versus a product that is good for us to trade and import would have a much lower tariff, which it historically has, that we're not competing with domestically. We got to get back to common sense.
The only
Right? And so,
percentages, when people talk about percentages and
yeah.
tariffs, it's
Mhm.
Trump that puts out the percentages.
No,
He's
it's
gonna
not
ini-
Trump that
He
puts out the
says clearly,
percentages.
I'm going to initiate a
Go
60%
get yourself a
tariff.
harmonized tariff schedule,
Okay,
okay?
but
It's not a
Trump's statement
blanket.
is, I'm going to impose, this is his words nearly verbatim, a
Wrong.
60% tariff on this or a 20% tariff on that. And then people say, economists
He's
say,
using that as a cudgel publicly to get them scared. Look how scared Canada just got.
I
Again,
agree.
I was just going to say it's a total
This is
fear
two different
tactic.
points. The point is where the percentages come from the messaging of Trump. The point, and then the knowledge comes from economists who say tariffs are destructive and cause inflation. That's all
Okay.
I've never said. I've never looked at
God.
the
But let me ask you a question, Trippy.
I
when he said
can't
he was
stand
going to
that we
impose
rely
these
on
tariffs.
theoretical experts for anything
He won
anymore.
the
Like
argument. Essentially, he won
I
the
only care
argument.
about
Now,
people who are in the field.
so let's say Canada, for example. I just acknowledged he won the argument. They've even said today they're going to spend about $1 billion cutting off the drug traffickers coming in from Canada to the United States. So he's got a concession from Canada to avoid him imposing these tariffs. That's great. But again, you missed the point that I have always made. He won the argument. These drug traffickers are going to be cut off at the pass. If Canada's going to spend $1 billion implementing their military to cut off these drug traffickers from entering the United States, you're going to have an effective program cutting the drug traffickers off. But again, you're putting the cart before the horse, and it's supply and demand. We're buying the drugs. We need to address that. Why does America have such an enormous appetite for heroin and fentanyl? It's okay if you cut off the supply, but it's going to come from somewhere else.
Have you tried it?
I'm just saying, he won the argument. I can't acknowledge that any more than that. Apparently,
No, and it was great. He did a total fear tactic. And look at Canada.
okay,
They got
but you still
they're
now
running
you've
around in
done
circles
nothing
trying to
to
catch their
address the
tails.
problem. You've
What's
done
that old
nothing now.
line from Charlie Daniels? They was running around like their ass was on fire and their head was catching or whatever.
No, but you've done nothing to address the problem.
That's not a problem. That's a good thing because they're getting in line and they're going to become the 51st state, and then we'll have Mexico as the 52nd
You
state.
think cutting off supply isn't a contributing factor to
There'll
the
be a new
problem?
supplier. No, it's not.
You don't think
There's
it's a contributing
all right. So
factor?
if we get the borders
I you
locked
could
Of course, it's a
you
down,
could bring
contributing
11.
factor.
I don't know how
I didn't
fentanyl
say
is
it was
sold.
everything. I say it was a
I'm just saying I
contributing
don't know how if
factor.
fentanyl is sold in kilograms or pounds. You could bring 10 pounds of fentanyl to me right here at my front door, Amazon. Bring it to my front door, and I would not want it. So it's really not a factor. I just don't want fentanyl in my life. I don't need illegal drugs in my life.
it
So
makes
you've
good
got
money, to be honest with
people.
you.
But I don't think this is a good conversation because I don't think anyone who's on fentanyl wanted fentanyl at some point either. I don't think that's how
It's
that
true.
happens.
No.
But there's
I
other.
don't think fentanyl is a desire or peer pressure. I think it is a psychological or mental reaction to circumstances in life that have led that person to a state of complete utter hopelessness where they need to be in a state that they are not in reality for as long as possible and as often as possible and become addicted to it until they are dead. It is
That
a
have gotten.
tragedy. It is an absolute
It
tragedy. It's one of the
absolutely is.
worst
But
problems of the country, but I don't think that doesn't mean you don't address those supply points. So,
I'm not
because
saying you don't.
fentanyl is not manufactured in the United States.
It
Okay?
can be. It
Uh,
will be.
It can
Now,
be, but that's not where we get the raw ingredients. So if we cut off the supply and say it's going to be made from somewhere else, well, at least make it hard.
Okay, but
I don't
your
even know
point.
how
Because if you
hard.
shut down the whole border, both sides, and you stop allowing those ingredients to come in, I can guarantee you one thing will be true. Out of many things that I can't guarantee, the volume of supply will decrease tremendously.
It'll reignite somewhere somehow, but that's not my
No.
point. My point is
No,
that
if you got the
government.
borders shut down, how's it
Where are
going to
you going to
reignite?
You
get
Where's
can
it
where are
going
you
to
make
going
it
to
come
at
get the
from?
wrong
home.
You
you
can't
getting the
make it in
wrong
America because you
ingredients?
can't grow the stuff you need.
Mexico and China that it's being made now. Mexico just started.
Is fentanyl synthetic heroin?
Uh, Fentanyl is synthetic, but it's not necessarily heroin. It acts as an opiate, but it's really almost like the stuff that Michael Jackson died from, that propofol.
Right.
It
It's a
it's that
pharmaceutical.
strong. Yeah, remember I was in the counter drug task force my last 4 years in Jersey. I was a counter drug task force commander, and fentanyl was a big thing. If somebody got fentanyl in their heroin or their pills, they would remember the stamp and want it again because it was so powerful. They were so addicted, they would try to remember the stamp, like whether it be a pirate head, Indian head of their particular drug, and they would try to get it. When you're addicted, but the other case is also on the other side of the coin is you get kids now they're just popping a pill at a party and they don't know what it is. So you got the two-step way.
So to both points,
And then
to
they wake
your
up
point
dead.
that the reason people turn to these drugs, to your point that they're so addicted that they're remembering the logos, we have done zero on a country level to address it. I've said in one point in particular In one point in particular is all I'm making. We have a thing called timing out. Kids in foster care timeout get thrown to the street at the age of 18 with a small state per diem. They realize early on in their first days on the street that they have one thing worth bartering over and above what their older competition has worth bartering, and that's themselves, their bodies. And that's how a lot of people get addicted to drugs. We've done zero about that. We've done zero to address why so many people are in total dismay.
But
And
you
to
know,
say,
we like
to
to send
revere,
$60 billion to the Ukraine.
oh my God, now we're going down another rabbit hole. Hang on, let me try one rabbit hole at a
Whoa.
time. I can't do 4-on-1 and 3 different rabbit holes as well.
Whoa.
Uh,
What? That did not sound
Whoa.
good at all.
Three
It
on
sounded
one and
like
something about a hole. What the
a
heck?
filthy movie.
What?
Listen,
Oh,
we've
we just
had
went to
Got one
R
at
rating.
home?
Give it an R
we've
stamp.
had zero acknowledgement. Homeless veterans. Okay, stop, pause, everybody. Homeless veterans. They're not suffering. They're not homeless. A lot of times they're not homeless because of PTSD. They're homeless because they don't have life skills to survive out in the open. So when they turn 18, they join the military. When they leave the military, they no longer have a job that provides 3 hots and a cot and a paycheck. And they wind up again skillless in a life that requires a lot of skills to succeed these
It's
days. You
not about
can't,
the skills, it's about the decision making and the like
but they don't
you
have
have
those abilities
you
either
you have
because,
there's
90%
and
are
Jonathan can speak to
homeless or on
that.
drugs.
Yeah,
well,
Jonathan, did you end up
I'm
homeless with
generalizing.
no
No, but
skills?
that, no, but
Now,
But there are
90%
ranks in
of
the
all homeless are on drugs. That's what really makes somebody homeless. The vets that are homeless are on drugs, but they're coincidentally vets too. But generally, if you're homeless, you're on drugs or you have a drug issue. Very rarely, or a mental issue. Very rarely does somebody just not have life skills or they couldn't get enough to scrape together to live under a roof. There's more of a factor than that.
it's not PTSD.
He didn't say, he
Always.
said drugs.
No, I'm saying I'm asking the question really. It's rhetorical. It's not
It could
generally.
be. There's a combination of a lot of factors, but the biggest that I would say, just putting my thumb, would be drugs and mental health, and a combination of both. But PTSD, that may be one of the contributing factors, but that might not be. If it's only PTSD and no drugs, I'd say that's very low percentage.
well,
If
I
it's
mean,
only
what about
PTSD,
the number one thing for the number one issue with criminal justice, I mean, I won't say number one. A big issue with criminal justice is recidivism, right? So you go to prison and you're there for 20 years and you do certain things, you have certain structure, you make very few decisions, you come out, what do you have, right? I mean, it's almost like it's almost like that's what you were used to, right? So going back isn't the consequence as much as it used to be. It's almost your place in society. Jonathan can speak to this, but I believe there are ranks in the military that make fewer decisions on a daily basis than an inmate. Correct?
oh yeah,
So now, now,
100%.
now, now, now you are in society. Now what do you do?
Well, that's my point is how do we
It's
address that?
hard.
Not so much about cutting off the border and you you're not gonna if it's not fentanyl that only can be made from China
I
imports
think
or
you got to do both. I think you have to do all of it.
but we've never seen any approach
Because, like I have
whatsoever.
said, how many times have I said that we need to perfect the four walls before we start going out
Well,
trying to save the world? But
you
instead, we want to send millions of dollars to the Ukraine and Gaza when we got homelessness here that you're worried about that you can't do nothing about, but your sleepy, cross-eyed Joey's doing everything for.
Well, Sleepy Cross-Eyed Joe is gone in 30 days. So it's just like me talking about Trump's salacious behavior. Sleepy Cross-Eyed Joe and his dementia is the
But he
same
put us in a
going
predicament
down.
that he could have used
He
that money
didn't
to
put us
help Americans.
it's first of all, I've gone down that already. First of all,
No,
we've done that for a
that's
hundred
irrelevant. I
years.
could care less about
You
military.
keep isolating the $60 billion that went to Ukraine. We spent $2 trillion in Afghanistan when it was at. If you amortize what we spent in Iraq and Afghanistan, it's nearly $2 to $4 trillion when it's finally paid off, if it's ever paid off. We were in Afghanistan for 20 years, and actually, the Taliban was better perceived than our military by the locals because we were perceived as invaders a lot of times. We didn't belong there for 20 years. We were looking for one man who was never there. Or if he was there, he was there up until the day of Tora Bora. He was in Pakistan, living basically a life of luxury. We were on a search. We were on a manhunt for bin Laden, and we found him, and we still stayed back in Afghanistan for 12 years after the fact. And the fact of the matter is that Joe Biden pulled the plug on an
And hey,
operation,
no,
and
no, no offense to our
that was
military.
profiteering.
Listen, no offense to our military because I love our troops, but there comes a time that we should stop being the cleanup boys. We need to come
Okay,
home and clean up our own country.
but every time we talk about that, in one particular instance in general, is Afghanistan. And when we decided to stop being a cleanup boys, we talk about $4 billion in hardware that got left behind.
Hold on a second. Real quick, Trippi. The Trumps, I know for a fact the last year, not one troop even got hurt or killed. And his last 2 to 3 years, there was maybe one. What happened is they had steady state operations going on almost during Trump's full term in Afghanistan, to where they had Bagram going, but they were running autonomously. The Afghanis were. Their own government was running. Taliban was out of Kabul. The last 3 years of the troops, nobody got killed.
Right.
They had steady state ops. But Bagram is needed strategically. It was needed. We should have kept Bagram. We should still be there because it's a foothold in that area. And by the way, it was an easy cover for the exfil. They should have used Bagram as the exfil also, and not the middle of the city in Kabul. So, and this is Biden,
is that the term for exit?
Person.
Yeah. Okay.
Exfil,
right.
yeah, exfiltration. Yeah.
Isn't that obvious? Wouldn't that have been obvious to anyone?
But okay, so let me ask this. It's a question. Let me ask
we wouldn't we wouldn't be having this discussion really if that was kind of the core difference, that we kept the air base and we left.
Okay,
from the
so let me
air
ask
base.
this question. There was a decision to leave Afghanistan. The president made that decision.
No, it was a decision to give up the air base was stupid. It wasn't stupid to leave the Trump made the decision. Absolutely. Biden carried out the plan incorrectly. That's it.
No,
he
Trump did not make
incorrectly.
Trump did not make the decision. He signed a peace agreement with the Taliban with a timeline that we would be gone.
Yes.
The exit that Biden Huh?
It was set up. What happens is,
but you just said we met the conditions.
Yeah, the Trump agreement for the withdrawal from Afghanistan never ever included the closing of Bagram ever, and it also set conditions to where if the Taliban moves towards Kabul and or hurts one person during the withdrawal, the deal is off. Mm-hmm. So by them, according to Trump's agreement, as soon as the Taliban arrived in Kabul, Trump's agreement was null and void.
So we would have stayed behind.
Yeah, but we would have. Bagram would have never been closed. You would have had everybody would have left systematically out of Bagram with our troops still there with air cover. It wouldn't be. You wouldn't have even seen it on the news. It would have just. Yeah, it would have just happened in our own base. But and it was, by the way, it already came out in testimony that the generals, who I hate, Milley, but I'll still stick up for him, they briefed Biden up that this needed to be done. And Derek, to your point, I make a joke. If my ROTC kids that I taught at Rutgers, that wouldn't have even been a course of action to close Bagram. For a kid that's not even an officer yet, it wouldn't have even been a course of action that would have tried. Mm-hmm. They would have even war gamed to close Bagram. We should still be in Bagram now.
We're not even talking about the strategic use of the base beyond the exit.
For the strategic reasons, besides to help out the withdrawal. Forget that. The withdrawal would have been seamless, even with Biden running it, because you know why? The military would have done it.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Isn't Bagram some type of checkpoint between China and Iran too?
100%, and we have nothing. And now they're
Now we're
blamed over the
oh my
rise.
gosh. Why does Iran do all this
Yeah.
stuff?
Okay, so
Why do
let me
they
ask you a
harbor
question.
criminals?
Okay,
Why do they have
so
money? Why is there war?
you know where they're harboring most. You know where the highest percentage of terrorists are being harbored right now is
Qatar
in Saudi,
or
and trained is in Saudi Arabia.
Yemen.
It's tilted.
no, it's Doha.
No, it's not.
What is it?
Saudi is about
Every
to make a peace deal again.
I thought it was in Doha. Isn't that in Qatar? Qatar?
You have Yemen
Hamas? You
is
talking
a
about
big
Hamas?
harbor.
no, Hamas
Hamas
is
is in.
is in Gaza.
They're
No,
everywhere.
That's
no, no,
Hamas
no, no,
is
no. I'm talking about the leadership.
yeah.
everything Hamas is in
They
Gaza.
No, Hamas has
No.
control of Gaza, but they're not all in Gaza.
No,
They're in
their
they
Syria.
went
leadership.
They're
into
in
Qatar.
Gaza. Huh?
Their leadership is
They
in
left Qatar. They left.
Doha, Qatar.
They were
They
staying
were.
in hotels in
Yeah,
Qatar, but they
They
left
were.
Qatar.
yeah.
Okay, so now they're in Gaza.
They've
I have
left
a guitar
Well,
Qatar.
right
they're
over
dead.
here.
Some of them are dead.
It's Qatar.
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 My
Qatar.
point is,
Qatar.
if my
Qatar.
point, okay, so let me just paint
I don't
my
know.
picture here, and I can't dispute a colonel, but I could say this. If we were still in Bagram and a rogue Taliban team came in and attacked Bagram, you just said we would no longer have left Afghanistan. Is that right or no? I'm asking a
No, I
question.
said a part of on Trump's deal for the withdrawal that they made. One of the conditions was that the U.S. would not withdraw and get out if the Taliban moved towards back to Kabul from the countryside. And they said if they hurt or harm a troop or a government troop during the withdrawal, then they're going to not withdraw.
Right.
But they never
So,
were going to withdraw from Bagram. They were going to leave. The number was 2,500. They're going to leave 2,500 troops with air power, Apaches, C-130 gunships, and run the same operations they had been running for the past 3 years. It was steady state operations, nobody getting hurt. The Americans weren't even out patrolling. It was all run by the Afghan government at that juncture.
We wouldn't be
so
talking
here's
if we just kept Bagram. We wouldn't be
here.
talking.
Okay, so
We would just
according
it wouldn't be
to
a topic tonight. There was nothing to talk
according
about. It
to
wouldn't be Trump
Yep,
or Biden.
absolutely.
Well,
You're
according to
100%
Biden,
correct.
when Biden was vice president, they told Obama you could pull out, but you have to add 30,000 troops first. They added the 30,000 troops and they never pulled out. So on Biden's watch, he said, we're just pulling out. I'm tired of being misled on the idea that we can partial pull out. And Bagram was a part of that. If we'd have stayed behind in Bagram, we'd have still been fully involved in Afghanistan. It would have
No,
been
they were. I just said during Trump's the last 3 years, we had Bagram and 2,500 troops. That's it. That was the footprint. 2,500 troops were in Bagram alone, not even patrolling, but we had a footprint there with air assets, obviously ground assets and stuff. So Bagram, the last 3 years under Trump was not one troop got killed until Biden killed them. Exfil.
No, we couldn't have only had 2,500 troops in Bagram the last 3 years of Trump's watch because we had on
do that with
Biden's watch.
Trippi talk.
Derek. Somebody Google it. But the Bagram numbers
we had
were
the pullout, the Afghanistan pullout was like 14,000 troops. They didn't just get there on Biden's
They
watch.
had to supplement for the pullout mission was a supplement of troops for the pullout. You need more troops there, but the number that they were going to keep on ground on the Trump agreement was 2,500 troops in Bagram of a joint force. So you got Air Force, Army, Marines, Navy.
So if we'd have left behind those 2,500 troops, everything would have been fine. The pullout would have went fine and everything.
And they would have fine.
And
Yep.
they would
It was
have
fine for the last 3 years, Trippi. It was fine
That-
for the last 3 years, running just out of Bagram. We did not have anybody out in the field during Trump's in the last 3 years. And if you don't quote me, no one died in the last 2 years in the Trump administration.
No, I'll quote you. I'll quote you. I'm just trying to understand when the pullout was initiated, and we pulled out literally Afghanistanians as well that were working with us for 20 years. It was a lot more than 2,500 people, and they weren't inserted there before we started pulling out. Some of them were there the whole time on Trump's watch too.
Why are we having this discussion? We just said we just needed to keep the base to pull people out and for long-term strategic stability in the region. That's all we're saying.
The
That
reason
was
how
the
did I
pullout. Keep the
believe in a
base.
decision, shit or get off the pot. We left,
No,
goodbye.
no,
See
no.
ya.
You're
And
just
No,
people
but
saying
got
you're saying spread shit on the you're saying spread shit on the wall when we didn't have to. The just consider the base its own like sovereign territory. Consider it like DC. Forget the base connection with
no
Afghanistan.
one
It's
was
in
touching it.
Afghanistan, but that nice Zach. But that's not the point. That was the that was the exit point, and that's the strategic regional peace node, or however you want to call it. And
It's
okay.
that
called
So,
that
the
was the
point
exit
of
strategy wasn't to
debarkation.
get out of Bagram Air Base. It was to get
well,
everyone out of Afghanistan
here's
and
how the
move
convers
on.
here's how
That's
the conver
all. There's nothing else to it.
well,
Biden just said, let's go. And you know what? He's not incompetent. He didn't have incompetent people telling him that. There's a reason why. I don't know what it is, but I can pretty much tell you what happened after that with the rest of the world.
it seemed like
Here
there
we
was
are. How could it get worse? How could it be
it's
worse?
it seemed like how the conversation started is we can't be the police of the world and we need to protect the four walls around us. And then we go to, well, it's okay to leave 2,500 troops in the Bagram. It's okay to continue to give Israel whatever
I
the
think
hell
we
they
have to keep
want.
our even if it's our economic foes at a controlled point. Okay?
That's everybody.
I
Yeah,
don't
but
think we
we
have to be a military force and presence everywhere in the world, but we have to strategically keep our enemies poor and our economic foes level playing field. Okay. And I think one of
That's
the strategies of Bagram is to keep Iran poor so that they don't go into Gaza, bomb a bunch of people, create a war that now we have to say is terrorism against Gaza innocent civilians, that Israel, all this shit. Sorry, I used one. It's just a result of money and poor planning and improper strategic placement. You do need military across the world in strategic areas. You also need an economic policy and strategy that deals with your competitors who can fund these operations. Who
which
would be
goes
your
completely
who would be
against the
your
populist
Russias and your
movement.
Chinas, who would help out your North Koreas and your Irans that causes all your money to go to Ukraine for whatever it's used for, which is probably about a third not what it's intended to be, as we continue to fund Russia's oil production so they buy weapons and continue this intentional war. It's dude.
So you're
I
saying
feel like you could put a third grader and just I know there's
in your
bureaucracy. I
eyes,
know
but you're going completely against the populist movement that we're not going to be involved in the world anywhere other than wherever the hell we feel the
we're
need to
going
be
to
The
be
involved in
very
the
involved in the
world.
world in a limited capacity because we have to be
Trippi, we were
because there are
already
bad people.
yeah, we had Trippi. We were already there, Trippi. We were
We were
already
there.
sitting. We had a footprint there, and the agreement. The number sticks out of my mind. 2,500. It was already there, fully operational, set up. Every general, even during when they talked to Congress, agreed that Bagram stays open. Trump will tell you straight up it was in the plan. You could probably Google the plan. The plan they have it now. It's out. It's public. It was 2,500 troops. Bagram. Then would have now. Remember the famous over the horizon. They said we don't need Bagram open. We'll use over the horizon. And then the first thing they did was kill the whole family of 10 with a drone strike because they weren't in Bagram to send over human intelligence or Apache to look at it. So they sent a drone over,
No,
and if you remember, after the pullout, they killed a family of 10 just because they didn't have a footprint in Bagram.
I do remember that. I'm just saying. So he made a mistake. He left Bagram open. At some point, there has to be some realization that we were more involved in Afghanistan during Trump's presidency than Bagram.
Yeah.
Well, we were, but it was very little operations. Trump wasn't a war guy. And go look at our casualties in Afghanistan. It's a quick Google. Casualties, Afghanistan, 18, 19, 20. I know in his last year, not one troop got killed. So they weren't running operations.
No.
They were just keeping the peace over there.
Wouldn't you say there's at those times probably more civilian contractors over there than even
100%.
and those people
And
are making bank, man, because it's like, hey, do you want to go
And
to a
yeah,
who's okay?
desert?
So let's go back to the point
You gonna
that
go to
when
a
it's
desert for 6 months and package things for 150K? All right.
okay, but
yep.
who's pay when
I'll
those
I'll give I'll give my tax money to that instead of
when
Zelensky's Bentleys.
okay, hang on for a
Yeah,
second.
exactly.
Zelensky's
And
Bentleys are not. When those private contractors are in
Okay,
Afghanistan, who's paying them? The U.S.
we
government.
are. We are.
Right. Right.
And they're
How
US
much?
part of the
citizens, so I'm
ability
very
of
happy to pay them compared to where
the
the rest of the
contract.
money goes. Because I
So
wouldn't want
would
to
you
go over
say
there
okay?
either.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Would you say in the two Ukraine's gone on for 3 years. The United States expense account to Ukraine is at about $80 billion. Would you say we did not get our $80 billion worth of actionable intelligence? Now that are we not more knowledgeable of what the Russian army is capable of? Are we not more knowledgeable of what the
That wasn't the point. The point is that we fund it. We allow Nord Stream to fund it. This is so stupid. What are we trying to get intelligence
what
for? Stop,
if
stop
Russia rolls
encouraging
into
the.
Poland, we're on. That's what we're getting intelligence about. They're in Ukraine,
They wouldn't roll into anywhere if they were
oh
broke,
no, they would.
Trippy.
They just rolled into Ukraine out of
No,
nowhere. They
you
would
can't
never.
roll in a tank that you can't buy.
This is
Nord
they can.
Stream, when Biden turns on Nord Stream, turned off our pipe. Well, stop building our pipeline, and then immediately turns on the funding for Russia for Nord Stream, so they had money to build up
You're
an army at the
you're
border of Ukraine. And
Trippy. It's my
Biden
point
still
is
has
your
time.
policies are ignoring the vehicles.
Well, Nord Stream first of all got blown up, didn't it? So as far as
Yeah.
Russia not having
Parts of
money,
it, parts
no,
of
as
it, but
far
they
as
fix
Russia
it.
having
They
money,
fix it.
they haven't fixed it. It still hasn't been fixed. And as far as
That was a while
money,
ago, dude.
Russia and money, they have money
Listen.
to roll into Poland, and
Well,
that
why didn't
would
they?
be.
Then why didn't they do it during Trump? A
I don't
coincidence?
know, but they rolled into Ukraine, and all we did was supply weapons. When they rolled into Kuwait, we sent our troops over under a Republican. Let them have Kuwait. Let Iraq have Kuwait. How is that our problem? Because they were going to roll into Saudi Arabia next. That was the theory.
So, September 26, 2022, a series of underwater explosions and gas leaks occurred on three of four pipes that were rendered inoperable.
That have not been fixed
In
yet.
but only two of 23 gas pipelines were affected. So,
But they
Oh,
still
all
haven't
right,
been
that
fixed.
I was thinking
10%.
of.
Ooh,
There was that. That's the underwater one that
yeah.
Tucker was
That's
talking
Nord
about
Stream. Nord Stream.
that we blew up. But wasn't there another one that
Yep.
that was we'll talk about that Biden authorized Putin to start back up again.
That
That
I don't.
that
Probably the Baltic.
I don't know. I don't know
that
how. I don't know that, but
Yeah.
I do know that if Russia rolls into Ukraine, which they've done for a second time now, under Bush's watch, they took over Crimea. They annexed Crimea. We let it go. Oh, it's just Crimea. They won't do it again. Under Biden's watch, they rolled into Ukraine. Oh, let it go. And then they're going to roll into Poland. If Trump pulls us out of the NATO agreement, maybe we don't have an issue. Maybe we don't have to supply Ukraine with the weapons they need to defend themselves. But if there's a NATO agreement on the table that's still in effect, we have to concern ourselves with what Putin's going to do next,
But
because it's very
we're
much
not
going to
going to
be
even worry
our.
about Ukraine anymore
how
because
about we
he.
just stop the war?
Yeah, let's
He's
stop the war and
so he
let's
promised
stop
he
funding Russia and
campaigned
NATO. We
he
don't need either
campaign
of them.
promised he's going to stop the war, and
Well,
no one.
Zelensky already said that he was going to stop the war and he's
He
going to let
said
Russia have
with
Ukraine.
security
Well, you would
assurances.
be like you would be a
With,
fantastic like pharmaceutical rep, Trippy.
what? No, I'm not being sales.
Patch it
But
with this one. Patch it with this one. Patch
no,
it
no.
with this
Okay,
one.
so hang on. What Zelensky said is he will stop the war with security assurances, which means he wants our troops in Ukraine, according
No,
and as
no, no,
well as
no, no.
friend.
He already has
Yes,
said that he's going to give the Ukraine over to Russia.
he's never said that. He
He
said
did.
they could temporarily hold some of the ground they gained, but it's a very complex agreement, and he wants security assurances, which requires U.S. troops, French troops, German troops to land and operate in Ukraine for an indefinite
Yeah, well,
period
that's
amount of
fine.
time.
Oops. Again, that might be part of the agreement. I did read some about that, Jeff. But that's
And
not
that would be
as long as there's peace. When you have international troops, if Zelensky wants them, I just don't want them being NATO. because Ukraine's corrupt. They
They
shouldn't
are
be
going to
part of
be
NATO.
NATO. NATO is
No, they
that is
won't.
they
Why would
are.
they be
They're going
NATO?
to because it's good when the agreement is finally forged with U.S., French, German troops. They're going to be under NATO umbrella. It's almost guaranteed. I haven't seen the agreement. Obviously, I haven't seen it. It hasn't even been forged. But if it were forged, it's my guess is it's going to be under the NATO. It's going to be under the NATO umbrella and under the NATO general's watch. That's the only way it could be. He has asked routinely in every meeting around the world to be a NATO, be a part of the NATO alliance. There has been clearly no. The answer has been no from everybody, not just the U.S., not just Trump, who's anti-NATO. Every NATO ally has said we do not want Ukraine as a part of our organization, but they are willing to send troops, and they will be under the watch of NATO alliance. And this is what Trump is alluding to that he will agree to. Because the only way you can end the Ukraine war is according to Zelensky's terms, because he doesn't have to end it if he doesn't want to. Because even if we cut off the money, which is essentially cut off,
That's
Congress has approved, Congress has approved what they'll approve.
Yeah, Zelensky does have it. He's going to get forced through very harsh dealings to stop the war. So yeah, he's going to have to give up a part of Crimea, which, by the way, was taken during Obama.
Crimea's gone. Crimea, that was under Bush's watch. Crimea is under Russian control.
2014 was Crimea was taken.
And that was Bush. And they did nothing, which is fine. And that's
2014
Russia.
not Bush. 2014 was
Jonathan, we could have this thing over. We could have this thing over in 2 weeks, man.
Yep. They could talk. If they haven't even sat at the table. By the way, Trippi, do you know that there's not even a back number connection right now between us and Russia? Tucker reported to where we don't even have a back number to where if shit hits the fan and God forbid something happens nuke-wise, we don't even have a back channel. That's how.
So that's going to change it.
This administration hasn't even talked to Russia at all. So Trump could get in there. They're going to talk. He's going to force a concession by both sides. And one might them not being NATO, and the other might be them giving up some of Crimea.
No,
that got taken under Obama.
Hey, Trippi, what year did you say Crimea was gone?
Crimea was in. No, I didn't say a year, but it was on Bush's watch. Not
No,
Obama's
it was under.
watch.
It's under Obama.
Crimea fell under Obama. Well, it's gone. It's
so
Russia.
once again, it fell under
2014, man.
So, but it's gone. That's a consent. Okay, so that's okay. That it fell under Obama. That's okay. So it just proves that his aggression doesn't stop at any point in time. At any.
It stopped during Trump.
You know what? I probably would have to acknowledge that, but let's see what happens.
No, you probably would. You need to.
You're gonna have to acknowledge it again in 4 years.
Crimea,
it's gonna be crazy.
Crimea
like, oh dang
under,
it! Is that over already?
Okay, so
you're Obama.
You're really thinking the war is going to end.
Hey, listen,
war.
Trippi.
Yes.
Crimea fell under Obama.
Yes.
100%.
It's like if you're like having like a pissing match through your uncle with your brother, and you haven't talked to your brother in 5 years, and then like you say, well, we're not going to change anything, but except I'll start talking to my brother once a week. Yeah. Probably you probably figure it out a little bit quicker. Like you don't place enough power in these simple differences, Trippi. I'm sorry, but you're always looking for this big like political like nice polished package, but these subtle differences are the differences. They are what make the difference. Like, well, just because we talked to Russia, it's not going to change. Well, we don't talk to Russia now, and we talked to Russia during Trump, and during Trump we didn't have Russian aggression, but we had Russian aggression before Trump, and we had Russian aggression after Trump. So I guess if like we can do this like correlation thing, I'll correlate my bet on that another 4 years with Trump where we talk to him and we actually make some
and we're gonna have
maybe
this
economic or military threats.
Again. Okay, and we're gonna have.
You won't have to have it in a year because it will be on to the next. We'll be like, damn, man.
I certainly hope so.
You'll be having all these like, gosh, man, I don't know what to do all this money.
Because it appears that I think Derek's right. Russian aggression happened during Democratic's power, not during Trump's power.
I don't even make it a party thing. I'm just saying that
No, I
those
make it a
subtle
total party thing because I got to rub it in his
those
face.
subtle differences make a difference. And yeah, Zach, you'll be in my office every other day saying, "Man, I gotta put all this money somewhere, man. What should we talk about on the podcast? Like, I gotta figure out I gotta figure out what to invest in this week. Man,
Oh,
that'll suck.
stop it.
That's just gonna suck, isn't it, Trippy?
Well,
Oh, it's gonna suck to win so bad.
well, let's just hope
I
so.
miss that. Bring me back.
Well, let's just hope so.
I
Prosperity
don't
was a
have to
wonderful
hope.
thing.
All we
Oh,
have to do is breathe and talk, and like it can't be worse.
What
It's
was
just
so
so
Obama
bad.
was what was Obama? Hope? What was his thing called?
It was change.
Hope and change.
Change. And then but he also
Yeah,
had Hope, right?
I don't
yeah,
know.
I don't
I
know.
just hoped he was
What was
done.
Change we can
Biden's?
count on. Change we can count
What
on.
was
That was
Biden's?
I don't know.
No change.
Hope he makes it to the end.
Well, we all know Ukraine was a country near Russia. Russia's a big country.
So here's my point on action. One time, been 3 years. Putin
And we ain't
estimated
got nothing.
Putin estimated he'd be in and out in 90 days. That was his initial estimation. 3 years later, he ain't got nothing either. So all I can tell you is really that we really don't have a world
We
foe
wasted a lot of
anymore.
money, and Zelensky got a Bentley and a couple yachts. I mean,
If I hear
so what are
about
you
this
gonna do?
Bentley again,
It's
that's
their pension.
probably fake news. I don't think Zelensky
He's
has
not
a
even in
Bentley.
Ukraine right now. He's probably in some gay
Here,
club in Europe somewhere.
Now that was
he's in
verified.
Ibiza.
That was
100,
verified, I
100%
think.
it was verified.
But as far as the Bentley being paid for by the U.S., I call bullshit on that whole story. But
He
Well,
got
I can tell
$60
you, I
million
can tell
dollars,
you,
do you know, or
there's, I can
$60
tell you,
billion
there's, I
dollars.
can
Do you
tell you,
not
there's
think
for
billions missing, and a
military,
Bentley's only
first of all, he
300 or
didn't
400
get
grand.
cash. He got military
Ugh.
hardware, and he didn't trade it for a Bentley. He
How do you know
used
he
it
didn't
to.
get cash?
Well, he
You
got
don't. Were you
we
there?
delivered.
I saw
We
him get a check.
delivered. Did John?
Sleepy
Did we
Joe, I saw
deliver
him sign the
hardware or
check.
cash?
Probably both.
What's happened? We're paying them through military hardware and money, but the problem is that's exactly what this whole thing is. It's a money laundering scheme. This is a whole nother show. That's
Yeah.
why they're doing war. Biden could have stopped this war. They were on the border for 2 months. Any bit of talk, any bit of concession would have stopped the attack. Biden wanted the attack. He even first said, "Oh, even a little incursion's okay." So they wanted this because we sent over billions of unaccounted dollars in military equipment, and you get kickbacks. That they all retired. Schumer, Pelosi, anybody who went over there and visited, they're all retiring on it. McConnell. I mean,
Well,
we're
you know
paying
what when you talk about what that sounds like is Kuwait. I mean, Iraq was allegedly posturing for almost a year building troops off the
Do you know
border.
that Joe Biden's net worth has doubled since he's been
Well, I
in the
know that,
office?
but
So how did that happen, Trippy? How did he get another 7 or 8
you
million?
know if we're
Every,
really
Last
every
I
hold on, hold on.
checked, the president's salary was around
but no,
400 grand.
Here's
hold
a
How did that
good
on.
thing.
happen,
Let
bud?
me ask you a question. Do you know a
Oh, by the way,
president?
that's probably 10% of it.
Do you know a president who has not increased their monetary income when they were in the White House?
No.
I heard that in China, Trump got numerous patent concessions from China after he became president. Patent concessions.
Trump actually lost money when he was in the White House.
I don't
What
buy
does
it.
what does Trump get from China? He's in a service industry.
No buildings, whatever the hell is going on in his little business world.
He does not
You're just
involve
make.
in
Oh,
China.
He was even
did you
renting. He
hear
was
that
even
on? Did
renting.
Rachel Maddow tell you that?
He was even renting the Trump plane to the.
No,
He
he
was
doesn't
even
talk to
renting the.
Trippy.
He was even renting the Trump plane to the RNC. They were paying him to fly his ass all around in his plane. So I mean, there's
I mean,
rampant.
did Whoopi tell you that, or Joy
No,
Behar?
these are facts.
Oh, come on.
You love him, so you don't see
Provable.
it. The corruption
No.
runs
You keep
rampant
saying I
through
love
and
him.
through.
I
They
don't. It's
like
called
the
a
Italians say,
respect.
the fish stinks from the head to the tail. The corruption in American politicians is the worst in the world.
Trump lost almost 2 billion during his presidency.
Because he probably sucks as a businessman. But I find it hard to believe that it had anything
Yeah,
to
you're
do with
right. You're right. It's only a few
his
billion. He
presidential
sucks.
prowess.
Just like Elon's an idiot. What an idiot. We should underestimate Elon Musk too, man. What does he know? What did he
That's
build?
why people revere him because of his net worth.
They
But when
don't
it comes
revere
to
him. They doubt him. The guy. It's like, okay, let's go doubt a guy who built a space program with the last dimes from his PayPal sale.
And he is the richest man on the planet.
And he
Well,
was just about a
we
couch
can't.
surfer
We
after
could
that
do a
fourth
whole
flight.
separate show about Elon Musk, but
That's not my point. Is like you always downplay like people's capabilities when they do great
no,
things.
I downplay
We
their
do as we
intention.
do as a.
Why? Do you think everybody has nefarious intentions?
So you're saying
Yes,
someone who's already a
Well,
billionaire
just the
everyone,
has
day job.
worse
everyone,
That stuff.
financial
other than
intentions
the
than
four of
someone who's
us,
not?
other than the four of us,
See, I
Oh,
just
well,
every
your logic here is crazy because you're saying a guy comes in as a billionaire and his financial intentions are worse than someone who comes in who's not and leaves twice as wealthy. Like, come on, dude. No, like, no, the intentions
I
are from the person who doesn't have it.
what
Why
the
would you ever be a political leader without a salary if you were financially
no
self-sustainable at
idea,
all?
but the question is
When
why?
you
I
don't
don't
even have a
know.
product-based
but
business, it's a service business and it's
that's
not even
why
in
most
that
of us
country.
who are Trump fans respect him so much because he did that and he's not like these other
He's just
bloodsuckers
like him.
in
He's
no,
not an
he's
He's just
elitist.
not.
like him.
He doesn't wear patches on his jacket like everybody else.
He does. He has endorsements. He has donors.
Really? So here's another show. We're gonna do this on a
Yeah,
different
but they're just
show.
paying his legal bills.
Here's
Whatever it
something we're
is,
gonna
that
do.
may be.
And
It's true.
John, you could join us for this one too. But here's what we're gonna do. I and I maybe I'm wrong. I think Biden got so butthurt for what they did to him with camel toe and all that. Did you see what he passed today, or he's going to pass? That no member of Congress should be allowed to trade stock while they're in Congress. They should not be allowed to make money.
Nope, they should just have term limits.
That too.
That's it. Yes, they
I don't
should be
know
able
that
to
that's.
trade,
We
but
don't know that
they
that's going to
shouldn't.
pass. He doesn't pass it.
I don't know.
Congress
Term limits
passes.
are going to be a
Congress passes
for term
laws.
limits.
No, no,
For
I don't. I
term
think
limits,
he can do an executive order.
What'd you say, John?
now for term
Trump can
limits, you got to
reverse
have
it.
to do for term limits, you're going to have to do a amendment. That would take a constitutional amendment.
Right.
Term limit.
Right.
That's a tough one.
That would be
My
that'd be
point
tough.
was we wouldn't have that discussion if we had them.
I think
If
we're
we
at
got
two
rid of
hours,
Yeah.
some of
guys.
this old baggage we got in there and bring some new blood in there, um, maybe not political lifers and put some business people in Congress, maybe America would turn around and be a little bit
Well, there's
be like
there's
the
there's
roaring
Dual term
20s.
maximum middle-aged private sector people.
there's
Yes, of
plenty of
all
business
levels.
people in the Senate and in
Well,
Congress.
Yeah, they made their money off of this skimming it off
They're
the backs of us.
they're pretty much at the point of, financial independence and
You're seeing
it's they're not that
So
many
why
boots on
not
the
get a
ground
bunch of
people in
millionaires or
Congress.
billionaires to run Congress who won't even take a salary and they're just looking to build America to be back the way we were.
well, there's plenty of them.
yeah.
I mean, Mitt
Hmm.
Romney
It's
just
supposed to be a
retired. He's
part-time
worth about
job anyway.
300 million.
And where
Okay.
did Mitt Romney get his money from?
Yeah, because he was only worth
Private sector.
42 when he ran for president.
No, he was worth
Yes,
more.
he was. When he ran for president, was it 2012?
Yeah.
He was only worth 42 million.
Well,
Them
How
that's
the
Mormons are
hell did that dude 7x his wealth? I want to get next to him, man. I want to 7x my
them
wealth.
Mormons do well, I guess, huh?
Whew.
so. Listen,
That is a slimy
as
pie.
much as I think we're at over 2 hours, do you guys think it's time to start?
Yeah, it's bedtime. I gotta eat dinner.
And you got to go for your midnight run, don't you, Derek?
Are you
Wifey's
gonna
back in
go?
town. He runs at midnight.
Yeah. Well, we ain't gonna be done if we keep going. Let's do next week if you guys want. Let's all.
Well, we can do another show next week. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
You do a
Is
show
there
every
Jonathan,
week.
you can join
no?
us anytime. I want to thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure,
Oh,
buddy.
yeah. Appreciate it, guys. Good time.
Love having you as a guest. Derek, welcome back to the big shoe.
Yeah, we were. Thanks, both of you. Thank you for joining us.
Me and
Derek, it's
Trippy were
nice to have you
struggling. We
back.
needed we got done beating that dead horse, so we needed some new stuff to
No, we're
beat up.
starting on
Oh, you had fun.
conspiracies.
You had
Yeah, we
fun.
did. We did.
Starting in January, folks, stay tuned. We're switching over from political nonsense because the Orange Man is in the kingdom, is on the throne.
Nothing
So,
more to worry about.
We're gonna go over to conspiracy theories, and we're gonna throw you down as many rabbit holes as we possibly can. Trippy can only handle one at a time, but we're gonna teach him how to do more
Oh
than
no, I'm
one.
not even ever mentioning that again. That didn't go well. I'm not talking about rabbit holes or
Getting
didn't
tossed
go
down a
well.
hole. Trippy, what is wrong with you?
I can't
Well,
even
listen, guys,
revisit that.
listen, everybody out there who listens to
I'm
us,
not
our
revisiting.
silly nonsense, babbling, baloney, and all that other good stuff. I love being your host for our show. We have a great time, and we really enjoy it, and we appreciate you. So please like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, tell a phone, tell somebody. Come watch us, and make sure you comment. I want to read the comments. We have one guy commenting, and remember what I said last week. I'm going to find out where you live if you leave a bad comment. Bam.
Well, John and Zach will find out where you live.
I'll bring John with, we haven't even touched on that. John was an MMA fighter, so
Oh, yeah, we've touched on that. We
this
talked
not this
about it the
show.
first time.
Yeah, the
Not this
first
show.
show we
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
yeah. We
Yeah.
touched on that.
So
All
yeah,
right,
you'll
guys.
come as my bodyguard, John.
What's
We'll have a
that?
good time. But guys, we thank you guys for everything. And once again, we are a political no-brainer, and we can't wait to see you next week. So until then, peace.
Hey.
Peace.